For everybody tuning in on the YouTube stream, welcome in. We're about to hop into the debates with over 100 Trump supporters for the day. In fact, we already have our very first Trump supporter, Mr. Joshua, up here on the live with us. So Joshua, take it away and tell us why you support the current administration.
Yes, sir. So I didn't originally, and I was going to see how all the tariffs and all those things played out, even though economists said that they might exceed expectations or do worse. And as we have seen, China is backing out, and so he is doing greater things for America economic-wise than he was.
I'm sorry. You just cannot say that Donald Trump is doing great for the American economy after Donald Trump has manufactured a fucking recession. We already have one GDP. We already have one financial quarter of negative GDP growth under our belt. JP Morgan is saying the second is to come. Same thing with the chairman of the Fed and other financial institutions such as Goldman Sachs and the Atlanta Fed. If Trump wasn't president right now, the American economy would be booming. And because he's president right now, we are heading towards a recession and the stock market is crashing.
How would it be booming and crypto's at the highest point?
Wait. You think that crypto is a macroeconomic indicator? And also, no, crypto's not at a highest point. My wallet
It's at its highest point this year.
No, actually, I dispute that. My wallet's lost value since Trump's inauguration.
Already then. Mine has not. Okay. Well, how would the American economy be booming? Can you explain that?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. If we just assume that Trump wasn't president, we don't even need to get onto why Kamala Harris was good for the economy. The economy would be booming compared to where it's at right now. On the day of his inauguration, if everything just stayed the same, the Atlanta Fed said that we would have 4% growth in the American GDP in the first financial quarter of this year. Because Trump disrupted that and implemented his terrible policy, the GDP recessed.
Okay, but you have to admit some of the policies on trade are better for the American people in the long run. One, how he's trying to get more American jobs to be in America besides
and what policy is that?
Chinese. You're the one with all the background information. And I asked you to clarify how would it be better. You made a claim just now how Kamala would be better and didn't give any background. And you just gave me an article.
Actually, the claim that I made was very specific. It's that if we had no president right now, the economy would be booming compared to where it's at today.
How would no president make the economy boom?
Yeah, because it is Donald Trump's policy that has sent it in a downward spiral. If Trump did nothing over the last 100 days, GDP growth would have been positive. Now it's negative. If Trump did nothing over the course of the last 100 days, we would have continued to see growth in the context of the NASDAQ, S&P 500, New York Stock Exchange composites as a whole. And because he was elected, because he implemented his terrible policy on Liberation Day, we've had the biggest crashes since the recession of 2008.
Okay, I have one more question, and don't take this the wrong way, but when you see his policies, do you come at it with an open mind, and is your mind willing to be changed to see if it does good, or are you just immediately going to say it's negative no matter what?
For sure. My mind is absolutely willing to be changed. All you have to do to change my mind is give me an argument that's better than my own.
No, I'm not talking about me. I'm saying, like, if his policies do work out, will your point of view change, or are you just going to keep this point of view shallow?
Of course.
Because I'm open-minded. I'm actually considering.
All that has to be done to change my mind is for an argument to be given that's better than my own. I'm very open-minded, yeah.
So if the NASDAQ goes higher than it was under Joe Biden, and if the American economy starts booming, will that change your mind? Because that's a pretty big argument, don't you say?
No, it's actually a bad argument, because you'd have to demonstrate that it's his policy that caused it. Just like I had to demonstrate that it's his policy that has caused the crashes so far in the term.
Alrighty. Sounds great. Hope you have a great day.
All right, you as well, Joshua. If you're one of the 5.6 thousand people tuning in on TikTok and you'd like to come up here and debate me, go ahead and drop a MAGA down below in that chat. As well as if you're watching over on YouTube, welcome in, everyone. We just started the stream over there. If you want to support me, you can find my Venmo as well as my PayPal and the link tree in my bio, as well as in the pinned message over on the YouTube stream. I get 100% of the proceeds on those platforms, and I appreciate you all so much. What is going on, Sean? Do you support Trump?
Yes, I do. What's up, man?
Oh, Sean, no, why?
I don't know, man. I've just been born and raised that way.
Okay, bad argument. Do you have like any real reason, I guess, Sean?
I mean, yeah, I've reviewed some of his policies and stuff, and there's some that I like, but there is some that like I kind of, disagree with. There's just kind of half and half on some stuff.
Okay, what are some of the policies you like?
Well, I didn't know what he really was doing with his tariffs, with going a little tariff war with China.
Okay, so when you say that you don't know what he was doing with that implies it's probably something you don't like that he's done. So what is something that he has done that you do like?
Probably his deportation law, getting illegal immigrants out of the country, because like illegal immigrants coming in the country has lowered since Kamala Harris or since Joe Biden has gotten into office.
So he's been deporting undocumented migrants without giving them due process, violating their constitutional rights, being checked by federal judges and the Supreme Court, then ignoring the federal judges in the Supreme Court. So in other words, uh, a big part of his deportations has been breaking the law. So why are you so vehemently anti-undocumented migrants because they broke the law to get into the country, but then you're so pro-Trump because he broke the law to get them out of the country?
Well, I mean, some of these you have to think. Some of these dudes coming to the country have brought drugs, smuggled drugs,
Okay,
weapons.
you can't say that on the live. Just say drugs.
My bad. My bad.
And actually, not true. What percentage of drugs that are brought into America do you think are brought in by citizens?
I honestly haven't looked. I have no idea.
80 to 90%. Has Donald Trump ever talked about further cracking down on citizens coming into America across the southern border?
Uh,
He left. Okay, goodbye. That was a good debate. Moving on to the next guest. If you're a maggot, let me know down below in that channel. We will get you up on the stream. We got inactive GTR loading in. He dipped. Quite frankly, he left. It looks like the last couple guests that we've had on the stream have inevitably just kind of left. Hello, do you support Trump?
Matter of fact, I do.
Okay. Matter of fact, why?
I do.
Did they kind of stop tweeting?
I don't know. But matter of fact, I reckon Trump does not deserve to be.
Okay. I heard the British accent from a mile away. We're going to move on to the next guest, I reckon. We got Mads loading up into the box. If you're in that queue, make sure that you do support the current administration, y'all. And moving on. Here we go. Hello, Mads. How old are you?
I am 19. I just wanted to say me and my mom watch your lives all the time, and we love you.
You're awesome. You're awesome, Mads. You're awesome. That wasn't British? God damn it. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. My apologies. I'm like very bad at identifying accents. Like to me, that sounded like British or Irish. I'm way off base. My apologies. Moving on to the next guest. Let me know down below in that chat if you support the administration. You'd like to come up and say hi. We got Koi. We got Mafia loading up into the box. Everyone. Someone in my other chat said sounded Australian or Irish or Scottish. What's going on? The bill? Do you support Trump?
No, hell no. I just wanted to say that I used to support like one or two of his policies early on, but since all of these tariffs and his new policies have come in with the undocumented immigration and things like that, I've completely turned like 100% to the point where like I'm thinking of registering as a Democrat. Like
Dude,
it's absolutely crazy.
That's
It's
awesome.
I don't mean to swear, but it's insane.
That's awesome, Bill. That makes me really happy to hear that. I'm going to move on to the next guest just because we're looking to debate people that still support the administration, but I'm really proud of you, man. I think that's awesome.
Right on, brother. I appreciate it. Take care.
Take care, Bill. What's going on, Owen? Do you support Trump?
Yes.
Okay, how old are you?
21.
What year were you born in?
Shit. No, don't. No.
Goodbye. Moving on. Here we go. JJ's loading up. Everyone, go ahead and drop a MAGA down below in that comment section if you would like to come up and debate, y'all. It looks like the people that support the president, they're very silent. They're very quiet. It's been really hard to find debates recently. Like incredibly fucking hard to find debates. Incredibly difficult to find debates. Mary, thank you for the $20 donation over on Venmo, as well as the incredibly kind message. And I will make sure to tell Parker that he is missing hopes that he's good. That's incredibly kind of you, Mary. Let's get 200 Mary W's down below in that chat. JD, how old are you?
I'm 19.
What year are you born in? Come on, man.
What?
I asked the last guy the same question. You didn't think about this?
2005.
What month?
2005.
I said what month? In 2005.
May 2nd.
May has passed, and you would actually be 20. Goodbye.
Oh,
Hello, Jake. Do you support Trump?
I had a quick question about feminism. I wanted to get opinions, if that's okay.
Ask one question, then I'm gonna kick you because I'm man. I've been looking for a Trump supporter for a hot minute now, and I just haven't been able to find one.
Okay, I get that. That's fine. Do you think in this current state, men have more rights than women?
Yeah, absolutely.
What factor? Jobs?
I mean, so when we're talking about rights, we have to understand and acknowledge what we mean, and it's not just in reference to legal rights and protections, but also facts of society, such as stigmatization of women in like a given workforce and a promotion of men in the same given workforce, or like just the generational outcomes of the detriment of the patriarchy and emboldening bigoted stereotypes, such as the idea that men are meant to lead and women are meant to follow, which reduce the amount of opportunity. And places more restrictions and or limits onto women that are not placed onto men. DJ, thank you for the galaxy.
Okay, well, can you agree that
Come on, I think you
men
can
and
level
women can never really be equal?
Sorry, equal in what sense?
Like, men and women can't have equal rights.
In what sense? Like, you're gonna have to be much more specific here, because like when you say that like
Um,
A can never be equal to B, okay, like I'm sure that in a lot of senses A is equal to B, in other senses A is not equal to B. So I'm just asking you to be more specific. In like what sense can men never be equal to women?
well,
DJ, thank you for
I
the
mean,
blender.
I've debated with a few people, and a lot of people have given me some good arguments. Like, well, women make less in some jobs, and they can't work when they're pregnant.
Okay, so
And
women don't work when they're pregnant. Um, okay, where are we going?
I just want to get to the point that men and women can't be equal ever.
Equal in what sense? Like once
In
again, you have to
rights,
define the
they can't
sense.
have equal rights.
What rights specifically do you think men should have that women shouldn't have?
No, I'm just trying to understand.
Please answer my
If
question. You're saying that you don't think men and women can ever be equal in the context of the rights they're granted. So name one right a man should have that a woman shouldn't.
it's not that they should have the right and the woman shouldn't.
That's what you literally just said should be the case. Yeah, that is what it's about, because that's what you just said. You just said, and I quote, men and women can never be equal. They will always have different rights. So what's one right a man should have that a woman shouldn't?
That a man should have that a woman shouldn't.
Yeah, that's a question that I am asking you indeed.
To be honest, I couldn't really tell you because
Okay, so then why would you believe
I
that they should
mean,
have different rights if you can articulate what rights should be different?
no,
It
no,
kind of
no.
just
I
sounds
don't
like,
believe they should have. No, I don't believe they should have different rights.
okay, so then you do believe that men and women should have the equal, same rights. So you do believe that men and
Yes,
women can
but
be
I'm
equal in
trying
the
to get to
relevant sense.
yeah. No, I think it should be equal, but I'm trying to get to the conclusion if it's possible.
Is it possible for? Maybe I just don't understand the question at all. What do you mean? Is it
Yeah.
possible? Like what?
Is it possible
Why is it not
for
possible?
is it possible for feminists to get the rights they're asking for?
Yeah, I do.
So do you think
I
at
do
one
think that
point
is
they'll be
possible.
given what they're asking for?
Yeah, I think that feminism will continue to be a successful movement to advocate for a more egalitarian society.
Okay. Well, I'll leave you to it. Thanks.
Of course, Jake, we're going to move on to the next guest. Let's go get that next guest up in the box. Everybody. Hey, you know what? If you think men are better at leading than women, let me know in that chat. Let me know in that chat. Say me in that chat if you think men are better at leading than women. I actually feel like having some debates on that topic. And seemingly, like TikTok TOS has been like very, very kind as of recently. TikTok TOS has been kind. TikTok TOS has been kind. They've been letting us have these discussions without restrictions or flags. So I think that maybe it's time that we start introducing some more of those subjects that we haven't been able to talk about for like months or even years because of the very dramatic TOS. But hey, before we talk to our next guest, I need to thank Disguised Veteran for the $100 over on YouTube Super Chat. Thank you so much for the love, Veteran. Dude, I want to see 1,000 Veteran W's down below in that chat. Veteran says, Boomer Veteran, trying really hard to understand your generation. I'm so sorry for the country we are leaving you. Thank you for all your efforts and patience with these irrational cultists. Disgusted Veteran, you're an icon. I want to be like you when I am your age. That is so incredibly kind of you. Just to kind of recognize that older generations have really kind of fucked this country a little bit. And you don't really see many boomers making that recognition. So I think that you're awesome, Veteran. Thank you so much for the message, as well as a $100 super chat. Everybody, please show some love to Veteran down below. And what's going on, Friana? You said in the chat that you think men are better at leading than women?
No, I just want to come on here. I'm going to say, you're so hot. I love you so much, Dean. I love
Get him off. Get him off. Okay, goodbye. Simon, feel free to come back on the app. Feel free to come back on the app, Simon. I can't hear you right now. Drop a me down below in the chat if you think that men are better at leading than women. We're going to get somebody up here that thinks that, y'all. We're going to test out the waters. If I get banned, head over to my YouTube account, link in bio. Link in bio, link in bio, everybody. Link in bio. If I do get banned, it's very possible that we will, but I think it's time that we test the waters. It's been a while. Hello, Carter. How old are you?
I'm 21.
21, and you think that men are better at leading than women, right?
Yes, sir.
Oh, man, it's been a while since I've had one of these debates. Give me one moment, Carter, because I got to thank Sid for the $70 super chat over at Venmo. 700 Sid W. Sid says, hi, Dean. Hope you're doing well today. You as well, Sid. Let me know if you want to get your dad up here at any point. Just hop in the queue. Let me know, and I will get you up here. Shout out Sid and shout out Veteran once again, guys. Thank you so much for the love. Carter, take it away. Tell us why you think men are better at leading than women.
I think men are better leading than women because men do more work than women.
Men do more work than women. What do you mean by that?
I mean, like, in the infrastructure of the world.
Building the roads?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, hey, I have an hypothesis here. Are you ready?
Yeah.
First of all, do you support Trump?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, every time Donald Trump has wanted to do work, like building roads, building infrastructure, he's hired other people to do it. And like particularly construction crews. So does this mean that your logic would imply basically construction crew supremacy, where the individuals best fit to lead this country are literal construction workers?
No, I don't think the president is going to build the roads by himself.
All right. So that just means that the individuals that do build the roads are better at leading than the president, right?
Well, they're both men, so in that case, yes, because I think men are better leading than
But
women.
I just want to
which is
clarify
what
that
we're
you
talking
think
about.
like the average construction worker would be better at leading than Trump.
No.
Oh, okay. Why? But the average construction worker is better at building the roads and infrastructure than Trump.
That has nothing to do with what I'm trying to say. We're
Okay,
talking about men versus women.
if building infrastructure and roads has nothing to do, and it's not relevant in your determination of why men are better leading than women, then why are men better leading than women?
Because they help the world more than women do.
Oh, really?
And infrastructure is a big part of the world.
Men help the world more than women do?
Yes, sir.
Do you know you wouldn't exist if it wasn't for a woman? And then that's where you're like, oh, well, that woman wouldn't have been able to get pregnant if it wasn't for a man. Then it spirals and it goes out of control. Then all of a sudden we're back at at year one, men and women, humanity's new. Guess what? Men suppressed women from being able to do what they want, levied, in my mind at least, the only advantage that they had over women at the point of physical strength, used that as a tool of oppression, developed the patriarchy. Now we live in society where men have more resources and a higher level of access to opportunity and forms of leadership than like this ever-continuing cycle of men, quote-unquote, helping the world out more. It can only be perceived true in the single sense that women have not had the same amount of opportunity to help the world as men. But of course, there's always various counter-arguments, such as the fact that if it wasn't for women, you wouldn't be here. And if it wasn't for a good mother, you wouldn't have been able to be raised to do quote unquote good things either.
No, I understand. I'm just saying I think men are better leaders than women.
And why?
Based on what men have always led.
Ah, okay, right. So because we've never had a woman president, men are better at being the president than women, right?
Well, I don't say a woman president couldn't be the president, but that just hasn't
But you're
happened
just saying
yet,
because
so
we've
we
never
don't.
had one, men are better at being president.
Yes, because we haven't had an example of a woman president
Great,
yet.
great. Are you a white supremacist?
What does that even mean?
I mean, is your answer yes or no?
No.
No, great. Are you racist at all?
No.
Great. So if the year was 2007 and you had a white supremacist racist walk up to you and say, well, we've never had a black president, therefore white people are better at being the president than black people, what would you say to them?
I would say yes, because we haven't had a black president. That's not racist. That's just a fact.
Oh, okay. So saying that white people are better at leading than black people is racist, and you are uneducated. Very
I'm not
bigoted.
saying they're better leading. We haven't had a black president. We've only had one black president.
Once again, I'll clarify. If a white supremacist said that white individuals are better at leading than non-white individuals in 2007, because at that point in time we had only had white leaders, would they be lying? Would that claim be false? Would that claim be true? Because I think it would be false. What do you think?
True.
Oh, okay.
That claim would be true.
Okay, so the claim that white individuals are better at leading than non-white individuals would have been true. So yeah, you're not only
At the
sexist, but
time
you're
that-
also racist.
How am I racist? How does that claim me racist?
You're asking me how the claim that white people are better at leading than black people is racist. I can't stand you.
At the age 2007, leading as president, yes, because we have not had a black president at then. I'm not saying that. That's not racist. I'm not racist.
Carter, how many continents are there?
What's up?
How many continents are there?
You're stuttering.
Well, I mean, I actually do stutter, but I didn't stutter when I said that.
Well, I didn't hear you. My bad. What did you say?
I said, how many continents are there?
Continent? 12.
So he didn't know what a continent was. So then he had to have his friend
I
whisper
said
to him how many there were, and he said 12. What am I going to do with you? Question for the chat. What is like the best way to prevent this from happening moving forward?
prevent what?
You.
I still want to debate.
You. Okay, Carter. I think this is the best way to prevent you in the future. I think I'm going to ask you to please educate yourself. I'm going to tell you that you're wrong about a lot. Okay? First, you said that there's 12 continents. That's not true. There's 7. There's 7 continents. Okay?
Oh, shit.
And just think about this. Hear me out.
That's not
Hear me
right.
out in good faith. Okay? Are you ready? Hear me out in good
Yeah,
faith.
what's up? Yeah, what's up?
If you don't know how many continents there are, then you probably don't know that men are better at leading than women. So what I will ask of you is
Well, at
to
the end of the day,
recognize that you might be incredibly uneducated and that these opinions are valuable, that these opinions matter, and to simply maybe listen to my stream a little bit more moving forward.
why would I listen to you?
Because I think I could teach you how to like be a better person, at least in like some aspects.
What makes you a good person?
Well, I think I'll make the claim I'm a better person than you. And I think like one reason why I'm a better individual than you is because I place more value on things like education, critical
What you play?
thought,
So
and reason. So the beliefs in which I hold are as unlikely to perpetuate harm against others as possible.
wait, I have a question for you. Do you think Kamala would be a better fit president than Trump?
Yes.
Why do you think that?
Because I found her character to be better. I found her policy to be better, both domestic and foreign.
Well, at the end of the day, character doesn't run a country. It's what?
So character does run a country. In fact, the character is the person who is running the country.
What did Kamala do for us?
In the last 4 years.
Yes.
If you name one thing any president or vice president has ever done in American history, I'll tell you one thing Kamala Harris did.
Trump built the Mexican wall.
He
The
actually
border.
He actually didn't. He actually didn't. So he promised that, and then he built less than 50 miles.
Well, he still built. So he did.
So no, you said the wall. I mean, the wall would imply like a wall across the entirety of the southern border. That's not true.
Well, that's not true. I just said that. Well, I didn't specify anything. So you're just trying to say what I'm saying. So what did Kamala do?
Yeah, sure. She passed the most tie-breaking votes in the Senate out of any vice president this country's ever had. She also worked alongside Biden to pass some of the most monumental legislation that this country's ever seen in modern American history, such as the infrastructure bill to renew American infrastructure, such as the Chips and Science Act to incentivize chip producers outside of America to move into America to bump up our domination insofar as the global supply of chips. They also passed the PACT Act, which invested $800 million into the expansion of VA healthcare benefits and provided new benefits that weren't provided prior to over 1 million new veterans. And I mean, there we could start like 3 bills and.
Wait, what are you reading this off of?
I'm actually just looking at my phone screen right now. I'm not reading anything.
Can you flip your camera?
No, but you could go to youtube.com/@DeanWithers and you could see me from a perspective of another camera where you could see me, my eyes, and directly in what's in front of me right now on live.
Well, my opinion on what you do, you load a bunch of really intelligent words into a sentence and you make it seem like you know what you're talking about, but in a real sense, none of this is really true.
And I'm just like reading off of a screen, right?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think a lot of people would agree with me.
Okay. Watch this. Go ahead and ask me anything. Ask me anything about Trump, Kamala Harris. I'll have this
Okay.
blanket.
What do
on
you
my
think
head.
Trump is not? What is Trump not suitable for to be a president?
Yeah, there's multiple reasons why Donald Trump is not suitable to be a president. We could start off with the fact that he's a fascist. And when I say fascist, I'm relating to the 14 defining characteristics of fascism that you'd read in the literature. On top of that, I find him not suitable to be the president as he has a disdain for human rights as well as the Constitution. This is evidently clear through his violation of undocumented migrants' constitutional right to due process, even after the Supreme Court ordered him to facilitate the return of one undocumented migrant and other federal judges and circuit courts ordered him to turn around droves of undocumented migrants on planes because they did not have due process in an immigration court. He disdained. He told them no. He said he was never going to do it. And on the 100-day interview he had with an ABC News reporter, he straight up told them that he didn't know if he had to enforce the Constitution. And this comes after December of 2022 when he straight up said that he wants to terminate the Constitution. And of course, the 2020 election where he tried to coup our civil and electoral processes, rig and steal the election from Biden.
All right.
So in summation, two big reasons that I just gave you why I don't think he's suited for the presidency is because he's a fascist. He has a disdain for human rights as well as the American Constitution. And hopefully, as an American patriot, you should get this, right?
Well, I understand what you're saying, but at the end of the day, people are going to assume and say stuff about any president. And I think Trump's a good president because he tough for real.
Okay. Well, you can assume and say stuff about any president, but you can't back it up with evidence and fact about any president. But if your response to all that is just he's tough, Carter, I'm going to go to move on. Appreciate you. Let's go to get that next guest up in the box. New character unlocked, Blanket Dean. I bring it out every once in a while when these guests say that I'm like reading off of a screen. I don't know. It's funny. He tough for real was his claim, bro. Unreal. Somebody in the chat just said I literally threw up in my mouth because of that. So fair. Brianna, thank you for the $14 over on PayPal saying just got home from the IV feeling much better. That's good, Brianna. That's awesome. As well as Amanda with a $5. And guys, honestly, I want to have one more debate about that. So if you're watching and you think that men are better at leading than women, that conversation didn't give me a flag. I want to have another one. Put a me down below in that chat if you think that men are better at leading than women. Seriously, put a me down below in that chat. I used to have debates about this all the time, and we kind of stopped having them because of TikTok TOS, but seemingly TikTok TOS is being a little bit more lenient today than it has been in the past, and I'm not getting any flags. Yo, this Rebecca Hernandez just said in the chat, yup, responding to the fact that they think that men are better at leading than women. I see that they're in the queue and I invite them on the stream, and then then they leave. Somebody in the chat said, Dean, your sexism live made me a misandrous. Dude, those people are so bad, man. That really fucked up my view on society a lot. What's going on? How old are you?
19.
19. What year were you born in?
2006.
What month?
April 8th.
Yeah, okay. All right, awesome. So do you think men are better at leading than women?
Yes.
Okay, why?
Can I ask you why you think women are better leaders than men first?
Okay, well, I don't. I don't think that gender identity is a relevant determining factor insofar as general leadership ability at all. I think the claim that men are better at leading than women or women are better at leading than men is synonymous to the claim that people that wear red shoes are better at leading than people that wear blue shoes, or the opposite.
Right, okay.
Okay, she just left. Great. All right, dude. We're having a bunch of people leave today. We're having a bunch of people lead today. We're having a bunch of people lead today. Bunch of people. They're just leaving. Hello, do you think that men are better at leading than women?
Absolutely.
Okay, why?
Just off the fact that I think males have better characteristics when it comes to leading a bunch of people rather than females. I think males are more authoritative. They're more threatening. They're more masculine. They're more physically dominant. And I think a leader should have those characteristics.
Okay, so if being threatening and dominant is your is what you place value on insofar as determining leadership ability, would you say that Hitler's a better leader than Biden because Hitler was more authoritative and dominating than Biden?
Well, the fact that they're both male, we're not even talking about that unless Biden's a woman.
Oh, okay. So then you're not using the standard of authority and domination as a quality for being better at leading, but it's rather just men are better at leading than women because men are men and women are women.
Well, I mean, I don't think Biden was, comparing Biden to anybody is like comparing a brick wall to a human being. I mean, we're not even talking about that right now.
Okay, so if you're just gonna deny to answer my question, you've already lost the debate because I was able to demonstrate how being threatening and dominating actually is not
And
a good.
charismatic, and I think women don't really have that over male.
You think that men are more charismatic than women?
I do.
Okay, why?
It just is, man. I mean, I don't really know the science behind all this shit. It's just a fact. I mean, you
Okay,
don't
so
really see
so I,
women
I just
do
want to
all
clarify
this.
that men commit 92% of all violent crimes.
So how does that make women better leaders?
Well, I mean, I think that this makes men less charismatic.
But in the leader role, I don't see that to be the case at all. I feel like
That is the case in the real world. Men commit 92% of violent crimes. It's also the case that women consistently score higher in EQ tests compared to men, when EQ is literally one's ability to manage and process one's emotions, as well as personability in social settings, which does relate to being charismatic.
okay. I mean, all right, you can have charismatic, sure. Prove me wrong then.
So
But
then why do you think men are better
stick
leading
to
than women? Come on,
authoritative.
you've tried to give me 3 things so far, and you've lost on all 3. Has a slur in his
I've
bio.
lost all 3. I still think men are way more authoritative and more threatening and more,
He does. What a weirdo. Okay, yeah, we're gonna go and kick him and move on. Um, so yeah, I do think that men on average are more threatening than women. But when we look back through history and we try to come to a consensus of the good leaders and the bad leaders, typically the worse a leader is, the more threatening they are. Hello, Rebecca.
Hey, I'm back.
Yeah, I don't know you. So you think that men are better at leading than women?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Why am I better at leading than you?
You are better at leading more than women because okay. First of all, I was going to tell you I voted for Trump because of patriarchy, not because of his character or anything like that, just because patriarchy.
Okay, well, unpack that.
You are better at leading more than women
Just say men. That was a joke. Why are men better at leading than women?
because they have more power and women are way too emotional.
I'd actually argue
They will cause more war.
women would cause more war.
Yes, they would.
Okay. So when I think of war, I think of a very violent emotional outburst, at least a lot of the time, to external stimuli to achieve one's goal or to get what they want or in response to another individual, right?
Okay.
And in a micro sense, I'd say that motivations behind committing violent crime can be very similar in a lot of senses to motivations behind starting a war. And who do we see commit 92% of violent crimes?
I mean, women make it more emotional, so
I think that men are actually more likely to act upon their emotion compared to women.
not really. Men are strategically more powerful and genetically more powerful. They're just genetically stronger.
Okay, but saying that like males have like a genetic strength advantage, physically speaking, over females does not mean that therefore women are more emotional than men. That's just another point that we could dispute later. So why do you think women are more emotional than men? And by the way, guys, Rebecca's of age.
Okay, sorry. Anyways, women are more emotional due to like their mental well-being, and they take everything emotional. It's like you could be a female and be
So
frustrated,
your
and
argument is that women are more emotional because women are more emotional?
men have emotions, but they hold it more in rather than
No, I don't believe that.
women.
I don't believe that.
They hold
When have you seen
hold it
when
more
have you seen
in
a
than
woman punch a hole in her wall because she lost a
so
game of
their
Fortnite,
emotions.
or like light her ex-husband's house on fire because he took the kids?
I mean, wait, say that again.
When have you seen a woman punch a hole in her wall because she lost a game of Fortnite or lit her ex? What the hell? Are you a Nazi?
Yeah, whatever you may label.
Thoughts on Hitler?
Irrelevant. I think it's irrelevant.
No, I think they're quite relevant.
No, it's not
What-
relevant.
What are your thoughts on Hitler?
No thoughts. At all. No thoughts.
Kate, reason why I said this. Kate, thank you so much for the $75 donation over on Venmo. Kate says she's a Nazi. Kate, you were right. Let's get a billion Kate W's down below in the chat. Thank you for letting me know, as well as thank you for the $75 donation. Thank you so much for the love, Kate. And Sid, with the $40 over on Venmo, thank you for the love, Sid. Sid says, my dad refuses to debate you again because he says you, and I quote, have a snotty attitude yesterday. I would try and force it again, but I don't want to waste your time. It's okay, Sid. Thank you for the $40, as well as Kate with the $75. Oh, man, unfortunate that he won't talk to me. Unfortunate, man. What's going on, BER? Do you support Trump?
I don't really support anyone right now because I kind of can't.
Okay. All right. Goodbye. Yo, let me know down below in that chat if you support Trump or think that men are better at leading than women. Honestly, hop into the guest request if you fulfill any of those two criteria. Yeah, we're going to move on. What's up, G-Money? Do you support Trump?
No.
Goodbye. You're a child. I have a feeling that you're about to be a very nice, kind fetus, and I appreciate you.
Yo.
Hello.
Hello.
Do you support Trump?
Yeah. No.
Do you think men are better at leading than women?
Well, look. Let me take it like this.
Jack, real quick. How old are you?
Look.
It's a kid. And the reaction when pointed out for being a child was to spam the N-word. Okay. Goodbye. Hello, Chloe. Do you support Trump?
No, I do not.
Base W, Chloe. Moving on to the next guest. We're going to go get the next guest loaded up in the box, guys. Keep in mind, if you are in that queue, make sure that that does mean that you do support the Trump administration, or you do think that men are better at leading than women. Then once again, if you'd like to support me, you can find my Venmo, my PayPal, and the pin message on the YouTube stream, as well as in the link in my bio on my TikTok account. I get 100% of those platforms compared to around 30 to 60% on YouTube and TikTok. And the only individual who touches that money is the tax man, as well as you get a notification at the top of my phone screen where I'm able to give you a shout out, read your message, etc. Yeah. All right. We're going to move on to the next guest, TH. Y'all go ahead and drop a MAGA down below in that chat if you'd like to come up and have a conversation with me. What is going on, TH? Do you support Trump?
Yo, no, I do not support Trump, but I do think that men are inherently better leaders than women.
Okay, so why don't you support? I guess, never mind. Okay, why?
I think that, one, first of all, it's a complex issue, so you have different leadership styles and different things to consider when you're considering what really makes a good leader. I think in general, men are more decisive and have generally considered leadership qualities that are more beneficial to large groups in humans.
So when you say men are more decisive, I think that you actually are referencing a real study that men are actually more decisive on average. However, I'd actually counter that and merely state that there's some other facts that are also true that could inform us about why men are more decisive on average and how it's not a good thing, but it's actually a bad thing.
Sure.
So men also have a lower IQ on average. Men have less emotional regulation on average. Then women outperform men in the context of fields that are in high-stress environments such as surgery on average, meaning that men are more likely to get stressed out than women on average. The reason why I bring these things up is because I think it's possible that the reason that they're more decisive on average is because they're more willing to make decisions in an absence of a consideration of fact, reason, or logic, and are willing to dictate that based upon their emotional well-being because of an impedance upon things such as stress or lower IQ, okay? So in other words, the fact that they're more decisive doesn't actually lead to better outcomes. In fact, it just means that they're less likely and willing to acknowledge or consider fact, reason, and logic behind making their decisions.
Yeah, definitely that there are things where females do outperform males. I think another thing to consider that could support why men are better leaders is really not something that is biological or based on statistics. It's more based on gender roles and stereotypes. So in society, often men are leaders and are in positions of power, and to keep it that way, women are generally not given the opportunities. In the past, this has been shown, are not given opportunities to rise to a position of power. And I think that is something to consider where...
In the way that there's systems of oppression that are used against women to limit their societal opportunity or access to power and resources, the same thing can be said in the context of race. So does that mean that you also think that white people are better at leading than black people?
I do not think that, no.
Okay, you even know that there's systems of oppression in which are levied against black people, meaning they have lower socioeconomic standard on average, lower quality of education because per student they're funded less because of systemic racism, and overall less access to resources and positions of power. You don't think that white individuals are better at leading than black individuals, so similarly, you should not think that men are better at leading than women.
Sure. I do want to point out the difference between a good leader and a good person. I've noticed in your other arguments or debates that you've mentioned Hitler quite a few times. I do not think that Hitler is a good person at all whatsoever. But if you look at what happened in 1930s Germany, similarly to Trump today, the leadership or the manipulation, the leadership factor was definitely there.
Yeah, you're calling Hitler a good leader. I disagree.
It's very double-edged. I'm not saying that he's in any way was a good person whatsoever or a good...
What do you think the point of leadership is? Organizing a collective to productively move in a given direction for the betterment of the individuals inside of the collective.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that.
Yeah, I don't think that Trump moved his collective for the betterment of the collective.
Yeah, no,
I mean, you could evaluate that through you could evaluate that through a significant amount of different lenses. One lens is, well, he only slaughtered 12.6 million people. He only started a war that inevitably killed 100 million people. So there's one lens, okay? Or what about I don't know, the other lens that his Reich fell, his soldiers died, and he unalived himself.
Yeah. So in that context, he got to this position in the first place in his context. In the end, it was not great, and things were tragic and ended very poorly.
Ended poorly?
I
don't know if I don't think things ended too poorly for him.
Not for him.
I don't know if that was too tragic or poor,
Not for him, no. I mean, in general.
Yeah, I think
the aftermath of World War II.
I think that they ended quite blissful for him. I think that was a great thing. What happened in that bunker. I don't think that was too tragic at all, actually, quite frankly.
For him, no. I mean, the millions of people that were killed, that died. It's tragic that happened.
Yeah, of course. So, I mean, I just gave you... Yeah. So, yeah, that's why Hitler was a bad leader. You have never thought about that before?
You're good.
Really, man? You've never been like, Hitler did the Holocaust? That means he's a bad leader? You've never...
He was a horrible person.
In what sense was he a good leader?
I don't really know. I don't know how to. I don't want to defend Hitler. That's the whole thing. I don't want to defend him. So it's a bad example.
Okay. All right. Well, is there anything else that you want to go over?
Nah. I'm good.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Dude, what? Okay. All right. So these debates with people about why they think men are better at leading than women, they reduce down to being also incredibly racist or kind of in this weird place where it's they might like Hitler. I guess for Rebecca, she actually was. Wow. Yeah, we've had 2 Nazis and 1 racist.
My
Two
honest
Nazis and 3
opinion,
races.
Hitler was a moron.
Based. I think that you're under the age of 18, so I got to kick you. Moving on to the next guest, you guys, if you're on that queue, make sure that you're at least 18 years old. We're going to go back to just debating people and why they support the current administration, y'all. Let's go get the next guest up here. What's going
Dean.
on? Do you support Trump?
Yes, I do. And I also do think men are better leaders than women. But I'm 18. October 3rd, 2006 is when I was born.
Bro, why do you think that men are better at leading than women? I guess
Okay,
a lot of people.
well-
I guess a lot of people think this. They just have been too scared to voice the opinion. But mask
I
comes
do-
off
no,
when I
no,
ask
hold
for
on.
people. to
Dean,
think
Dean, let me tell him so. I just think like just historical based on history, men have done better than women. But I do think that in terms of certain aspects that women do lead better than women. Like I think just think of like just high school, okay? If you're leading the club, if you got a club, I think a woman would do better than a man. But if you think of a country, I think a man would do better than a woman.
All right, what?
Just based on history and what has done. And bringing to the Hitler point,
Yo,
I don't support. What you said? What?
Real quick, name 3 notoriously bad decisions made throughout history.
3 notoriously bad decisions. I think, since we want to talk about Hitler, I think the Holocaust was a bad decision.
2 more.
If you think about, let's think about Alexander the Great. I think him over expanding was a bad decision
One more.
because it led to the fall. And I think, I think Japan, whoever the leader was, him bombing America was a bad decision.
Pearl Harbor. A man,
Pearl Harbor.
and another man.
Okay, but I mean,
So
can you name me
what's
3 women that?
What's the
Can you name
historical
me
context to demonstrate that you think that men have been better at leading than women?
Just think of all the so according to your point, out of all the men that existed in the world, like throughout history, that they all made bad decisions, that they weren't fit at their job. The reason why you probably have a mic in your mouth right now, like in your face, is probably because the man has helped you to a certain point. Think of back.
So there's been more male inventors than female inventors. Therefore, men are better at leading than women.
We're not talking
I
about
believe that
inventors.
there's been more male inventors than female inventors because men have had a greater opportunity to invent compared to women, and women have been systemically limited from inventing. That's what happens when you have an oppressed class of individuals. That's what happens when it wasn't until the 80s, which women could report rape in the context of marriage. It wasn't until the 1920s they even had a right to vote or a right to own property, a right to open a bank account, own a credit card, or start a business. Okay, I obviously think that you're going to see more men inventing because they have more opportunity, plus the fact there's going to be more men stealing inventions from women. But even if we accept that there's been more inventors that have been men compared to that of women, I don't think because we see predominant amount of one demographic compared to another demographic in one field, that means the demographic with a larger pronunciation in the field is better at performance in the field. For instance, 85% of surgeons are male, the remaining 15% are female, yet female surgeons consistently outperform male surgeons.
Okay, Dean. So you're talking about America or just the world in general? I think if you look
that's
into
worldwide. That's from the AMA in conjunct with the JMA. It was done on 1.4 million patients on 6 continents in 14 years. So
I think you're right on certain points, but I think you're kind of like you're picking and choosing. I see that you and like Charlie Kirk, y'all pick what to say and you try to just blend in a whole bunch of words into it. Like when you debated Carter, like Carter's on this app, you mentioned you brung up like name continents. Like that isn't really like this. Just like you just bringing up random stuff.
I
can
Carter,
tell you
that was
completely.
completely.
Hold on.
That was
It didn't make
that was
it didn't make
completely
any sense.
So
it was
me
not
asking Carter-
relevant. It wasn't relevant.
Me asking Carter to name to tell me how many continents there are was completely random. It was
random. So okay,
and it
hold
was
on. Dean.
and I do
So
again.
hey, think about this. Okay, who won the game? Juventus or Lazio? You don't know that because it has nothing to do with anything. Like you just said that just to take picks at Carter.
Yes.
You did that for no reason at all.
That is why I said that. Yes.
So you really think exactly? So that's what I'm trying to say is like you're debating, but you're trying to set traps into a certain point to make it seem like you're always right. You're doing it. Every debater does it.
So I've used a very irrelevant, meaningless question to demonstrate how juvenile Carter was, and that's the only time I've done that in my stream. And the reason that I did it was because he said he supports Trump because he's tough, and he was a proclaimed racist, misogynist, sexist, POS bigot.
Carter said that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Why
What
are
does
you
that do about the
pivoting?
kindness thing?
Also, I think it's funny that you're bringing up like irrelevant pivots. You understand that this is all a detraction from our original conversation, making it an irrelevant pivot. Like the original
I'm
conversation
just
was
saying
about.
what
No,
you
no, no. You're
brought
listening
up,
to me.
though.
You're listening to me.
I am
No, no,
listening.
no,
Yeah,
no, no, no,
I'm
no,
speaking.
no, no, no. I'm gonna go
Too.
and put you on
I'm
mute.
speaking.
You can't be speaking while I'm speaking. We're having a conversation about why you think men are better at leading than women. You're like, oh, because there's more male inventors than female inventors. I give that a cogent, substantive rebuttal, and I disprove it. And then you're like, oh, Dean, you make irrelevant pivots like when you ask Carter about the continents. But it's really funny because that in of itself was an irrelevant pivot. Do you want to respond to my points about why your position that men have invented more than women is either not true, the reasons why it might be true, and how that does not indicate that therefore men are better at inventing than women?
Okay, sure, we can bring that up, but just to make it a point that I never brought up inventing, you did.
No,
I
you
just brought up
did.
historical. No, no, I did not.
Yes,
I
you
brought
did.
historical.
You said
I
that
said
you
historically. I said
specifically
historically.
talked
No,
about
I
my
didn't.
mic.
I did not bring. I brought the mic, but I didn't. I said that just an example.
Why did you bring the mic up?
I just brought an example.
Why did you bring the mic up?
Because I'm saying it's probably because of a man that you're in this point to even have a podcast.
Because a man
in
did
general.
what?
Because a man that created like what you have right now.
Oh,
Think of America.
what do we call
Think of
creating
America.
new
Dean,
things?
Dean. Think
What
of
do we
America.
call creating new
Think of-
things?
we can-
No,
Dean.
stop.
No,
What
no,
do
no,
we
no,
call
no, no,
creating
no,
new
no, 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 no,
things?
no. It can be invented.
What do we? Oh, invention.
Did George Washington invent America?
Oh, fucking invention. Thank you
Did
so much.
did the founding fathers invent America? No, that's not what they don't say.
They
Oh, I
invented the country,
invented
sure. I
America.
think that's a
They did
completely
not
fine-
say. They did not
that's
say
a
like
completely
that.
fine
But no,
usage of
we're
the
bringing
term.
up historically. Okay, historically, men have been better than women, and you have brought up this because women were suppressed. So, Dean, I asked you this question: if
Wait. Are you saying that
No,
men
no,
have
no,
been
no.
better at leading throughout history compared to women because there's been more leaders that have been men?
No, I'm just saying.
So then what's the argument that they're better?
You can just look. So you're saying there's no man at all that has done good at all, being a leader,
dude.
That's what you're saying.
Whoa.
But no. Dean, let me ask this one question. Let me ask this question.
No.
And we can leave. We can done. Let me just ask one question.
No.
I'm not saying no.
I'm gonna respond to what you said.
You're about to mute me. Let me
I
ask a
am.
question, Dean. Let me ask a question.
No.
Oh my gosh,
No.
Dean.
The reason. Take a step back. The reason you're acting like this is because you just straw man the hell out of what I said. You know that you just straw man the hell out of what I said. So now you're trying to move on as fast as you fucking possibly can. You straw man the hell out of what I said because I simply asked you if the reason you think men have been better at leading historically compared to women is because there's been more leaders that have been men. Okay. And then you respond to that by saying, so Dean, you're saying that there's never been a good man leader. That was the most obvious straw man fucking ever.
Okay, but Dean, you can say what you want. But let me ask you a question. If men and women start at the same time, okay, no oppression, no like oppression, okay, at all. You think a woman do a better job than a man does?
In the context of leadership?
In the context of leadership.
If you had a pew-pew to the back of my head and you forced me to tell you which gender I think is better at leading, I would say women because they have a higher IQ on average, more emotional regulation, meaning that I believe that they're better fit to serve on top of other relevant characteristics and attributes such as personability, charisma, and being a people's person. But I'm also completely fine with saying that we cannot use gender identity as a tool to generalize which, like who's better or worse at leading in general. And I'm completely fine with saying that men are not better at leading than women, just like women aren't better at leading than men. But obviously, you're here to defend the proposition that men are better at leading than women. And insofar as our debate, you've been able to give me one argument. I've been able to dispute said one argument, and you've not been able to respond to said refutation. In fact, your responses have just been either strawmanning my argument or asking me new, irrelevant questions that do not relate to my counter argument against your original position.
Okay, so are you done?
Yeah, I ate.
Okay, so really there is no like debate because you just said that men, you don't think men are better than women, you think women are better than men. It's just about abilities.
So
like,
there is
really,
a debate because you disagree with me.
No.
You think that men are better leading than women.
No, because I think that, but you don't really want to debate it because you already said that. You already said you're just here to prove me wrong. You're not here to prove you right because you don't have a stance on it.
Oh, well,
so, like,
I do have a stance. My stance is
you just said abilities though. You just said abilities though.
Are you ready for my stance?
Didn't you just have your stance? Like
My
you said, you think it's
stance
abilities.
is that there's no relevant differences between men and women that make men better at leading.
I think there is.
What are they? What are they?
I think a man can be a more like authoritative. You say authoritative isn't good, but I think if you sit back and
What does
just
that
let
mean? Be
everything.
specific.
Hold on, Kate just said stop yelling. I'm not yelling. Am I yelling, Dean?
Not right now.
Okay. So let's be specific. Okay, let's just bring up, since everyone has brought up in your life, let's just bring up Hitler. Okay? Let's just bring up Hitler. No. I'm not being a Nazi. I don't think Hitler's a good person. I think what he did was wrong, completely wrong. I think he's in hell right now, okay? But I think if you look at the stance where Germany was, okay, the Germany where how after World War One, how they were just broke, and Hitler changed that and he made them better. But just the other ways he thought just ended up putting Germany in a worse position.
No,
But there was a certain point.
I don't think that Hitler made Germany better. I think he made Germany significantly worse.
I think at the end, because of how far he took it, how I think it was really an ego thing, and just how far he took it just made Germany just go downhill. But
Wait,
hold on.
Say,
Dean, let me finish. Dean, let me finish.
Because when
let
you
me finish.
say
Dean,
how
you're
far
interrupting
he
me.
took it that was bad, this is implying. 1 second. You're telling me that the issue with Hitler was how far he took it, which implies that you don't find any inherent issues with Hitler's beliefs, but it's rather the fact that you think he took them too far, which meant they could have been appropriately used in the context of his leadership?
You're wrong. I didn't mean it like that, okay? You took it that way, but I didn't mean it like that. I think so when Germany, think about it in the 1930s Germany, okay?
Hitler?
Okay, so who do you want to bring up? We'll bring up someone
I just
else.
want to know like what your argument is. Like you
we can bring up someone else.
No, actually, I want to know where you're going with this. How are you going to use Hitler to justify your belief that men are better at leading than women?
Because we'll bring up another.
No, I want you to finish out the point that you're starting on.
We'll stay out Hitler.
How are you going to use Hitler to justify your belief that men are better at leading than women? Let's hear it.
Okay, because Hitler did his goal. Okay, he achieved his goal, but it ended Germany in a bad way. But Germany's when in 1930s they weren't broke anymore. Hitler solved that. Okay, Hitler solved it. They weren't seen as under. Hitler solved that because after World War One, how many like stuff was put onto them to keep them down to make them repay for World War One? There was a whole bunch, and Hitler changed it. So at the end, if you just take away everything, he was a good leader. He led Germany into a good spot, but he lost the war and he just lost the general to other men. So we can bring out other men. So let's think of
under Hitler's leadership. At what point was Germany in a good spot?
We can bring up during the Holocaust. Hitler, what he did with the Jews war, but he's in hell. You're gonna meet.
Yo, what's good, Dean?
Hey, what's going on, man? Do you support Trump?
Yeah, bro. Did you see he just recognized Palestine or something like that?
So you support Trump because you're pro-Palestinian?
No, but don't you support that?
Yeah, like the recognition of Palestinian state. So I actually do support the recognition of a Palestinian state. However, of course, I haven't looked into it, and I actually do think that there could be a lot of negative implications insofar as the recognition of a state or boundaries therefore of that don't include other parts of Palestine to specifically further and propone his narrative that the Gaza Strip belongs to Israel alongside other land. But why do you support Trump?
I don't know. It's what he's doing, you know?
Okay,
The
what
border and
specifically?
stuff.
The border and stuff? What do you like about what he's doing with the border?
I just think illegal immigrants shouldn't be in here.
So you support his deportations?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know that he's been deporting a lot of undocumented migrants using illegal means?
Yeah.
Do you think that's a good thing?
Yeah, I think deporting undocumented migrants is good.
Okay. So, in other words, you think it's okay for Trump to break the law to deport undocumented migrants because it makes our country better off?
What do you mean? How's he breaking the law?
Deporting undocumented migrants without due process.
Oh, you mean without a trial?
Without due process. That could look like a trial, that could look like a hearing, that could look like a bunch of different things. So you do think it's justified for Trump to break the law, deport undocumented migrants because it makes the country better?
Well, I think they should be able to have that, but not in our country.
Okay, so you're just telling me that you disagree with the Constitution, and you think that it is okay for Trump to do that illegal thing because it makes the country better?
No, I'm for that specific case.
Okay, so why do you think it's justified in that specific case to break the law?
Because it's for the greater good of the country.
To get them out, so it's okay to break the law to get them out of the country. Why?
Because it helps the country.
So exactly what I was saying. So you think it's okay for Trump to break the law to deport undocumented migrants because it makes the country better, right?
Yes, in that specific case.
So in other times, it's okay to break the law if it makes America better. Guess what? You just justified undocumented migration into America. Undocumented migration makes America better. What do I mean by this? Undocumented migrants pay over $100 billion per year in taxes to the federal, state, and local level, meaning you pay less in taxes proportionally, and our government has more money to spend on social services. Undocumented migrants pay in over $300 billion per year to the American GDP, meaning in the next 10 years, they're going to add $3 trillion to the motherfucker. They also account for millions of individuals in the American labor force, meaning that American industries are reindustrialized with a greater force to make more goods to sell to more people, which is exactly what Trump wants, so you can't contest it. That's a good thing. They're also per capita 2 times less likely to commit violent crimes than you. And I think that is probably a good thing, right? 2 times less likely to commit violent crimes compared to natural U.S.-born citizens. So seemingly, undocumented migration into America makes the country better, so using your own logic, they should be allowed to do it.
So I see what you mean, but I feel like, what about all the crime and like the gangs?
What about all the crime? They're 2 times less likely to commit crimes compared to natural U.S.-born citizens. Does this mean that we should place an emphasis on deporting citizens?
No.
Okay, so then what about the crime?
Well, where are you getting that from?
PNAS, that is an organization which has been tracking crime stats and crime rates in America, comparing citizens to non-citizens since the 70s. Real quick, Rebecca with the $18 on Venmo says, stop appropriating Hitler in the Holocaust. Do you know how scared the Jewish individuals are right now? You don't sound empathetic or smart. We have generational trauma we are reliving now. Stop it and stop letting guests do it. So I did end up kicking that last guest because he said that during the Holocaust was when Hitler was a great leader. Go ahead. Stolen Zoo, go ahead. Are you here? Goodbye. Moving on to the next guest. Everyone, if you'd like to give us a minute to get the next guest up in here, it looks like he left. Everybody. Also, Delaney, thank you so much for the $20 over on Venmo. Delaney says, I've watched your lives for so long, and my sister and my mom love what you're doing. We're all huge Kamala Harris fans. Keep doing what you're doing. You're amazing and never stop. You're great, and my sister wants to go to your tour. She's in college in Staten Island. Delaney, thank you for the $20 as well as the incredibly kind message. That's awesome. I do really appreciate you for your love. Everybody, please show some love to Delaney and Rebecca down below in that chat, as well as Gabby with the $10 over on Venmo. Thank you so much. As well as Jennifer with the $10 on PayPal. Reagan with a 10, Amanda with a 10. Thank you guys all so much for the love. Welcome in, Cody. Do you support Trump?
I am for Trump.
You voted for him. Do you still support his administration today?
Yes, I still do. And I believe tariffs are working and going in our favor.
Right.
Now, let's go on the deportation part, like you were just talking about. Okay? You got your stats from where?
So stats, I'm guessing you're referring to crime stats. Insofar as my claim that they're 2 times less likely to commit violent crimes in America, that's coming from PNAS.
Okay. Well, there's multiple sources of statute. Like you're gonna read from one. Let's read from 3 others. I mean, when we pull them up, that says illegal migrants has created more illegal violence in this country than other. I mean, that's.
Why did you just make that up?
Do you want to pull those up, or you're just going off one stat? So let's just say let's go off 3.
With grace, the quote-unquote stat that you just gave us was made up in your head as you spoke it. You don't have a source.
No, it's not. I'm not giving you my other stat. I'm giving you a chance to tell me what other.
Cody,
other channels, or you
Cody,
go off of the
I'm gonna-
other stats.
I'm going to checkmate you here. Are you ready?
Hmm?
Name the source.
I like chess. Okay, I'm gonna checkmate you. Name the other source. That's what I'm getting back at you too. I'm gonna checkmate you back.
My source was
Give
PNAS.
Give me another source besides.
You told me, and I quote, you said that you have a source that says, and I quote, by the fucking way, that undocumented migrants commit many more illegal crimes than citizens. Where is that quote coming from? What's your source for that quote, Cody?
Okay, I just told you to fact check me on that. You said
I did, because
checkmate.
BNAS.
I'm checkmating you back.
What are you checkmating me on?
Pull that quote up. Who has that source?
I told you, PNAS.
No, that's your source. I said check my source. Find out my source.
What is your source?
There you go. Checkmate, because you can't find it.
Wait, you're telling me that I lost the debate because I can't find a source to justify what you're saying is true?
You just said checkmate. You got me on one source. I said checkmate. I got you on 3 different sources. Find the source I'm telling you about.
Have you ever watched the movie Idiocracy before?
Yes, I have. Watched a couple different movies, but we're not talking about Idiocracy. We're talking about stats and quotes and whatever you want to say.
Cody, let me make sure I'm reading you right. Bear with me here. So at this point, you've checkmated me because I can't find a source that says what you're saying is true.
At this point, yes, I have, because you're not finding the point to where I'm telling you to find me a point.
How do you feel about this? The reason I can't find a source that says what you're saying is true is because what you're saying is not true.
Well, no, there's not. There's other sources out there.
What's the evidence that it's true? What are those other sources?
Maybe you're not reading the other sources, but that's what I'm asking you. Read the other sources.
Well, seemingly when we look at the other sources, like an article from September 12th, 2024 from house.gov, that titles undocumented immigrant offending rate is lower than U.S. citizens rate. I'm proven right, you're proven wrong. Or a source from the American Immigration Council titled Debunking the Myth of Immigrants and Crime. First statement reads, undocumented immigrants are less likely to commit crimes than U.S.-born citizens. This is true at the national, state, and local level. There's 2. Or what about immigrationpolicy.org that once again reiterates that same fact, quote unquote, the reality of reduced criminality which holds across immigrants groups, including unauthorized immigrants, has been demonstrated through research, meaning that they are less likely to commit violent crimes and crimes as a whole compared to citizens. Okay, there's 4 sources.
I'm not going to bring up names with that, but let's just go ahead and say this. You voted Kamala, right?
I voted for Kamala Harris, Cody.
All right. Well, she lost her money from doing $20 million campaign. Instead of speaking on her point, which she should have, instead of saying, here's what I'm going to do for America, she wanted to run Beyonce and all them on stage and do all the things she did. Instead of saying, let me talk what I'm going to do for America. So she didn't really have a really good fight in that.
I'm just gonna use the same. Okay, watch this, Chad. I'm about to devolve myself. I'm gonna use the same arguments against him. Trump didn't talk about what he wanted to do to America because
he talked about
no, Cody, listen, because instead he was too busy hanging out with Hulk Hogan, Kid Rock, Elon Musk. One second, sir. Elon Musk, sir. Aiden Ross, sir, and launching meme coins, selling guitars and Bibles.
And shoes. Don't forget about the shoes.
Oh, and the shoes. You're only proving yourself wrong.
Don't forget about shoes, yes. But that is to my point.
What about Bryce Hall, sir? Instead of giving the American people his plans, he was talking to Bryce Hall.
That's how you get money for a campaign, sir. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you again, like I told you before, I'm telling you now, he did say up front, tariffs. He told everybody what he was going to do, and the people still voted for him.
And you said that you think that the tariffs are good for America right now. Can I ask you about that?
They are right now. Did he not just tell, what's his name, the other night that we don't need your steel, we don't need your cars, we don't need your aluminum, we don't need it?
Well, when we say we don't need it, and we impose very strict regulations on imports into this country, including for imports of raw materials that American producers use to make their goods, guess what? The American people are less confident in American markets. They spend less money.
No,
GDP growth slows. Sir,
we don't need their product. We can build it here in America like we did in the 60s and 70s and have a better future for
sir, let me ask
our
you.
kids, your kids, everybody else.
Oh, you want to emulate the economy in the 60s and 70s? What was the corporate tax
Yes,
rate?
I do.
What was the corporate tax rate in the 60s and 70s?
I don't know that.
35 to 45%.
Okay, but listen.
So should we emulate that too? Should we increase our corporate tax rate to 35 to 45%?
No, but should we not?
No. I have a question. Was the GDP higher in the 60s and 70s or now? Should we emulate the GDP of the 60s and 70s? Maybe Trump actually is doing that because right now the GDP is going down. Meanwhile, the GDP in every other country on earth is going up.
Okay, but listen. I mean, you're not still. I mean, you're still going on about that, but you're not answering my actual question. Is tariffs? Do you believe tariffs is good for the country or not?
No.
Why do you not believe in tariffs good for the country?
I believe that tariffs are bad for America because they make Americans pay more for the bare necessities to live, not limited to goods produced and imported, but also to goods made in America by American manufacturers that import the raw materials they use to make their goods from other countries. That's one reason why I believe tariffs are bad. Another reason I believe that tariffs are bad is because they isolate us and they distance us from every other country on earth, meaning it blocks us out of engaging in global commerce and other global markets. And a third reason why I believe that tariffs are bad is because they severely impact consumer confidence in American markets. This is why, after Liberation Day, we had the quickest drops in the American stock market since the 2008 recession. The dollar's losing ground. GDP growth has finally slowed and is now going, is now slimming. We're heading towards a recession. That is a prediction by J.P. Morgan. That's a prediction by the Fed. And we already have 1 quarter of negative GDP growth under our
Explain
belts.
how we're heading. Explain me how we are heading towards a recession. Answer that one question.
I'll answer it in one sentence.
Yes.
A recession.
How we heading to? Listen, answer that. How we heading to a recession?
A recession is 2 financial quarters of negative GDP growth. We already have 1 financial quarter.
How are we
I'm
heading
answering
towards
the question.
Canada is the only one heading towards
I'm
a
answering the
recession.
question.
Yeah.
So in the first financial quarter of 2025, we had negative GDP growth.
Yep.
The Atlanta Fed, J.P. Morgan, and the chairman of the Fed all think that trend's going to continue.
Okay.
Meaning that we're on our way to a recession.
What's that growth at now? Answer that.
What's that?
What is that growth at right now?
Negative.
You said at the beginning of 2025. Answer the growth of right now.
Yeah, the numbers are in from the first financial quarter, which is the first 4 months.
Exactly. We're higher. We're way higher. So invest in stocks right now, right?
It's low.
No, we're not. We're higher.
Literally, no. Our GDP was higher when Biden was in office than it is right now. The GDP has gone down.
You know, you want to talk. You want to talk about everything, but I mean, I know you're a left, and I love it. It's great to get to talk to somebody like that, but tariffs are probably the best thing that's ever going to happen to our country. I mean, I'm sorry. Come on.
Oh, man. Do you mind if I ask you a question? It's going to be a pivot, though.
Go ahead. You can ask me what you want.
Are you Patriot?
I'm pro-American.
Okay. Are you pro-law and order?
Yeah, I'm pro-law and order. I mean, I value a justice system just like you do.
Would you ever support a president that willfully and intentionally let a violent offender that beat up a cop out of jail to run free in the streets after calling for the termination of the American Constitution?
Okay, now you're gonna say that again, but now which cop? Who are you talking about right now?
No, just any president that will willfully and intentionally lets violent offenders out of jail that beat up cops and calls for the termination of the Constitution.
No, you're talking about June the 6th, right?
No, I'm talking about a hypothetical president. Could you answer my question with a yes or no?
Can I answer your question with yes or no? Yes. If I have a good reason to, yes. If you had a good reason to let somebody go, would you not? I mean, you answer that question. If you had a good reason.
What if they didn't?
In your mind, you have a good.
Wait. Can we agree that the only good reason for letting a violent offender out of jail before their sentence is complete like significantly before their sentence is complete, they're only a third through it, is if they're not guilty, they were innocent.
Yeah, that'd be really great. I mean, it was innocent.
But I just want to clarify. Like, is there any other good reasons that would exist? I can't think of any.
Okay, yeah, just like these people spending 30 years over
Okay.
marijuana.
Cody, sure. Well, I don't think that's a violent crime, but I would agree with you. Cody, you actually can't say that on live. I really want to keep on talking to you though, but I gotta kick you. I got to. I'm sorry, man. I really didn't want to kick you right there because I really wanted your answer to that question, but it's unfortunate because he said the name of the MDRUG. Also,
how's it going?
What's going on, man? Give me one moment. Somebody in the chat called me a racist performative grifter. I did invite you. I'd love to have a chat. Love to. Briar, thank you for the $50 over on Venmo. Briar says, you're stronger than I am. I've had to turn off the volume and stare blankly into space several times. I feel myself losing brain cells. Yeah, dude, the guest today are nuts, dude. I'm not going to lie. Holy fuck. Briar, thank you so much for the love, though. Everybody, please show some love to Briar down below in that comment section. Let's get at least 1,000 W Briars. As well as, Ken, thank you for the $50 over on Venmo saying, glad you're back to defending liberal ideals. Let's fucking get it, Ken. Good to see you, man. Everybody, let's get 500 Ken W's. Thank you both, Briar and Ken, both for the $50 on Venmo. I do not deserve that at all. That is so incredibly kind. Jesus Christ, that is so much money. Thank you so much for the love. As well as Telly with the $2 on YouTube Super Chat. Winnie with the 10. Funny message there, Winnie. Sarah with the 7. Sarah with another 7. Clara with a 10. Faye with an 8. Olga with a 10. Allison with a 10. Thank you all so much, and I'm sorry that I haven't seen this already. Anyways, random, do you support Trump?
Yes, but more so wanting to talk about the factor of economics.
You wanted to talk about economics. So do you think that Trump is good for the economy?
As of now, so far, yes, and that's been reflected in the market having the biggest. I mean, you could check right now. It's up 5% month over month since the tariff announced. And you brought up the point of GDP.
What market has Donald Trump's economic policy positively been reflected in?
If you look up the SP 500, the NASDAQ, or the Dow Jones, it's up 5% in the last month.
Oh, and how much did it go down because of Liberation Day?
And then how much is it up after China has?
That's what we're trying to determine. So how much did it go down because of Liberation Day, and how much is it up now after we put the tariffs on pause?
It went down like 7%.
Let's see. So it went down from 5,600 to 5,000.
And then it went down.
And then it went back up, and then it went back up to right around 5,600 in the last month.
Yes,
so in other words,
5%.
the S&P was here when he announced his tariffs. It went down here.
Yep.
And now it's back up to here.
Raise that hand higher. It's up 5% now.
No, it's actually it's identical. It's anonymous. Anybody could look up the S&P 500 and find this on the internet. Check this out. Check this out. Check this out. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
So what caused the S&P 500 to go from here to here?
The tariffs.
And then what did he do to those tariffs?
He paused it.
So if there was a restriction that hurt the market and caused it to go down 5 to 7%, and then he temporarily lifted that restriction, and then the market went up 5 to 7%, doesn't really sound like good economic policy. Kind of just sounds like common sense, or dare I say market manipulation. It's like he really hurts the market, and then he revokes the thing that hurt the market, so it stops hurting the market. And then you're like, economic genius, 60 chess, billionaire, president, business genius, billionaire, president, business genius. Sorry, take it away, man, but that's my thoughts. Feel free to unmute.
Oh, and then over the weekend, China's like, okay, you're right, this isn't good. Now we're going to start doing it. So before Trump put all these tariffs on, we had an average tariff of like 0.6% against all these countries. They had an average tariff of about 13% against us, which isn't fair, right? So this whole thing is basically just a big bluff. And you did bring up the point of GDP decreasing last quarter. So do you think that's bad?
I think that the GDP going down is bad, yeah.
Do you know why it went down?
Yeah, because of Donald Trump's economic policy.
Because companies started to stockpile all of their future imports in one singular quarter.
Companies started to stockpile all of their future imports within one singular quarter. So
yes.
That would actually make the GDP go up. Am I wrong?
No,
They're spending money on the imports?
No, it's because we had to import their goods. So basically, all these companies had to do that because they were scared of those tariffs hitting, and then no one else would buy goods. So like the U.S.
Oh,
companies
so
did work.
people stopped spending money because of the tariff sitting? Is that what you're
They
saying?
bought more goods from companies abroad instead of here, because they were scared abroad goods would be more expensive, right? So that explains why the GDP went down last quarter.
So I think that that's one reason. Okay, all right.
Yes.
Obviously,
So
and also I want to clarify that reason is going to be consequential once again of his policy, so I'm not wrong. However, like another reason is just going to be like the same reason we saw dramatic drops in the stock market. People had a reduction in their confidence, as well as the impacts of the tariffs when they're implemented, of products getting more expensive that are made overseas as well as made in here, made in America, that are reliant on raw materials produced outside of America. It's also worth pointing out a handful of things here. The first thing that I'd like to point out is you said that the tariffs are good because they're being used as a tool to negotiate better trade agreements with other countries. Even if that is the case, I find that to be a bad idea, as using tariffs to get other countries to reduce their tariffs on us is the most abrasive means possible to achieve that goal. Giving you an example, your friend has a JBL speaker that you want. You can either give him $25 for it or put a gun to the back of his head. If you put the gun to the back of his head, it is likely you will get that speaker. However, it's significantly more abrasive than giving him $25, as well as it reduces the likelihood that that friend will work with you in the future. I view the synonymous comparison to be using tariffs as a tool to negotiate better trade agreements with other countries compared to trade agreements such as the USMCA, TPP, or NAFTA, in which Donald Trump is incredibly capable of negotiating. In fact, he did it his first term with the USMCA. But I don't think that this idea of reciprocal tariffs is the motivation behind his tariffs, as he imposed tariffs on countries in which have not charged just a dime, such as Canada.
first of all, good points, but you said the market went down, the market went up, and you brought up the point about
pause
a
the
JBL
tariffs.
speaker.
I could
Yes.
have told you that would happen.
So you brought up a point about this whole JBL speaker thing, right? Perfect, because that is not what the point of the tariffs are. So if you actually look into the details of what the tariffs are on, they're on specific goods and services that the U.S. deem vital to our own security, like semiconductors and certain tech software that are
Oh,
very.
that's not true. Every single
Yes, it
good
is.
that, no. Every single good that we import from Canada is now tariffed. It's just
Not
that.
talking about Canada, talking about China.
Oh, you're talking about China. Are you talking about his tariffs in the first term?
No, it's like recent terms, like within the last month. So we have no tariff.
So why did he place blanket tariffs on Canada but not on China?
Because, okay, so we don't have any tariffs on Canada and China, or Canada and Mexico now.
Because they're on pause.
Exactly.
Because he realized the plan was shit.
Well, no, it's actually because the Canadian Prime Minister agreed to have more troops on the border, same with the one in Mexico. But no one likes to talk about that.
Okay, for sure. Do you think that Biden is a better negotiator than Trump?
We're not talking about that. We're talking about the tariffs on Canada.
I mean, I will. We'll talk about the tariffs. Okay, in response to the tariffs specifically. So, no, that's actually why he paused them the first time, but then he re-implemented them with the blanket tariffs imposed on every other country in the world, and then paused them a second time. But I would like to imply that this is an important question. I'll show you how it relates. Is Biden a better negotiator than Trump? Or is Trump a better negotiator than Biden?
This literally has no point of what we're talking
Yeah, it
about
does.
right
I'll demonstrate the relevance. Which one is it?
Also, you talked about how the
I want to
US
demonstrate the
problem,
relevance
right?
to you. Is Trump a better negotiator than Biden, or is Biden a better negotiator than Trump?
To be honest, I wasn't paying attention that much during Biden, so I couldn't tell you.
Okay, well, seemingly Biden's a better negotiator because he was able to get 15,000 troops deployed to the southern border by Mexico in 2021, but then seemingly Donald Trump has to implement tariffs to get 10,000? Should have voted blue. I don't know. And then Biden
that's
claimed
great.
that we got more individuals deployed to the northern border by Canada. That's not true.
No, that's great. I hope he did that. I'm pro-USA. If Biden could do that, that is great. But the point is, you're slandering these tariffs from Trump in the same way that they're just
what it
not
describes
doing
is that you could get less with more. So then when you use more that hurts our country as well as theirs to get less, it's a shit plan. Not to mention, you also said that Canada deployed more troops to the northern border. That's not true.
If you think the whole point of the tariffs has to do with Canada and Mexico, that is not the point at all.
Well,
the point is China
I'm specific.
and India.
Well, that's not true. The point is blanket tariffs on every other country in the world outside of Russia.
Yes, that is the whole point. The point is we need equal trade, and then in return, the U.S. dollar is falling. You earlier said that was awful for the U.S., correct?
Wait, well, I don't know what you're pivoting to because I wanted to respond specifically to the point that the point is to achieve better trade agreements with other countries. So,
Which has
so I already responded to this, and you did not give me refutation of my response.
Okay, about what?
Yeah, I specifically said that it's using the most abrasive means necessary to achieve a goal. I think that this is a bad idea because there's less abrasive means that are relevant, such as the
Like
ability
what?
to negotiate trade agreements, as well as the more abrasive means, will reduce the likelihood that these other countries will work with us in the future. My evidence that there can be less abrasive means used, such as entering into trade agreements, is the fact that Donald Trump himself was able to do this during his first term with the USMCA. Not to mention he's historically against trade agreements, such as when he pulled out of the TPP. It's also important to recognize that not every country that he imposed tariffs on was imposed in a reciprocal manner. So I'm unwilling to accept that that was the motivation for all tariffs, such as, for example, Canada, who's not charged us $1 a dime in tariffs in modern history. But apparently now you're saying that we imposed tariffs on them because it was merely reciprocal. That's a lie.
So you think China's going to be like, oh yeah, of course we'll have equal trade with you guys?
Well, I mean,
Same with
historically,
China.
every single time we've imposed higher tariffs on China, they've only increased them on us. But I would appreciate you not to fucking pivot. Because I want you to respond to the fact that there's less
Yes, I
abrasive
agree
means
with you.
necessary that we could use, such as the deployment of trade agreements to achieve better trade agreements with other countries. The more abrasive means ends up only hurting our own countries, as well as our relations with these other countries. Not to mention that he didn't implement reciprocal tariffs on all countries because it included countries that haven't tariffed us a dime, such as Canada. And then even if your claim about China is true, that merely offering them a trade agreement would not be sufficient to get them to reduce their own tariffs on us. Okay, well then you could argue that some tariffs on China is justified, but I don't see how this justifies blanket tariffs on every other country in the world, which in America redistributes wealth from the poor to the rich, according to the Institution on Taxation and Economics, and sends us barreling into a fucking recession. You're arguing for policy that doesn't exist, because when you isolate it down to tariffs on one specific country, you are forgetting and foregoing the tariffs on every other fucking country in the world.
Dude, why do you keep talking about Canada? I agree with you.
Why are
We
you
should
only
not-
talking about China when China only accounts for one country inside of his Liberation Day tariffs, and which impacted every other country on Earth? And then you're refusing to engage in my refutations of using tariffs as a tool to negotiate better trade agreements. And I showed you even Mr. Trump, who is historically an incredibly terrible, incompetent president, was himself able to negotiate better trade agreements with other countries during his first term, such as the USMCA.
I'm just confused why you keep going back to Canada and Mexico. You realize what
Because what
percent
that
of
shows is that even Trump can
Okay, keep
negotiate
talking.
trade agreements with other countries.
what?
Because that shows
Because-
that even Trump can negotiate trade agreements with other countries.
Yes, Canada and Mexico are very different than world powers like India, China, Russia.
So why did
Canada
he tariff them?
Do we have a tariff on Canada right now? No.
He did with Liberation Day. Now it's paused in
Yes.
every country outside of
Okay. It's yes or
outside
no.
of China.
Is there a
So
tariff
why
on
did
Canada
he
right
place it?
now?
Why did he place? Yeah, we have a pause tariff on Canada.
Exactly. So there's not a tariff right
So
now
why did he place a tariff on them on Liberation Day?
to negotiate.
To negotiate
Is there
what?
a tariff on Canada? Yes or no?
To negotiate
no.
what? There's a
Is
pause
there
tariff on Canada right
No.
now. Yes. Why did he? So to negotiate what? What did he place tariffs on Canada on Liberation Day to negotiate?
Okay, historically, Canada has had like around a 2% tariff rate on the U.S., and we've only had about a 0.3%.
No, they don't charge us $1
Yes.
a dime in tariffs.
Yes, there is.
No,
Yes,
no,
there
no,
is.
not true. Tell me. Okay, indicate to us one tariff that any American
let's
American
look it up.
company paid to Canada in the fiscal year of 2024.
Okay, let's just look it up, right? That makes more sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Does Canada have any tariff against the U.S.?
They do not charge us $1 of tariffs because the way in which their tariffs are structured is given quotas, and we fall below the quotas.
We just gotta look it
By
up.
the way, that deal was brokered by who?
What do you mean brokered by who?
Who was the deal?
Oh,
made?
yes. Actually, yes. Canada has had tariffs on the U.S.
I just told you how the tariff structure works. It works in a
wow.
structure of quotas. If we don't go above the quotas, we don't pay a tariff, and we don't go above the quotas. Wow.
In 2024, they had 125 billion on us. So what?
I unironically just fucking told you that the way in which their tariffs work, it works in a system by quota, where if we do not go above the quota, we don't pay the tariff, and we don't go above the quota. Not to mention that all restrictions on trade related to America, Mexico, and Canada were brokered and negotiated by whom?
Wait, I'm still looking this up because I'm
Who
really
were they
confused.
negotiated by?
I wonder what they were under Biden. Same with Mexico. So the whole point is
Same
they've
thing they
had
were under
tariffs-
Trump because the original USMCA was negotiated and brokered by Trump.
Yes. Okay. So we agree that Canada had a tariff against us. And then you're saying because
They've
of
had
this
staggered
economic policy.
so
Yep. Okay, yes,
Canada has
yes.
had staggered quotas against America. We do not go above the quota, therefore we do not pay the tariff. And in response to the tariffs we placed on them, they retaliated against Republican red states, and then Donald Trump folded and paused the tariff we have on them. That's what has happened, man.
Yeah, I know.
And
I'm
the
talking
fact of the
about
matter is, these
those tariffs
tariffs
2 years ago with Biden. Canada made tariffs against the U.S. when Biden was president, right?
If Canada made tariffs against America while Biden was president,
agree.
I did not know that, and I think that obviously we should reduce
small.
tariffs between countries. So then
Yes, I
explain
agree.
to me why, in response to the tariffs placed on Canada in Liberation Day, Canada only increased their tariffs on red states, and then Trump folded.
Because there should be free trade.
Wait, but it just made it less free because they increased their tariffs against red states, and Trump folded.
And then we paused. They paused ours, correct?
And so you're basically
That's the whole point.
so you're basically telling me here that Donald Trump caught a W by imposing tariffs on Canada. Canada increased their tariffs on us, then Trump folded, and then they paused their increased tariffs on us. Seemingly, that only made the short-term outcomes of the market significantly worse for both Canada and America, leading a shit ton of Canadians to then despise, hate America, and hate Trump, which then is the only reason that led to I think a 20% bump in liberals in the polls for Canada, which led to them electing a new liberal leader. And somehow this is a Trump W?
Before this even happened. Okay, so
No. The conservative
just
party in
proved
the
my
state,
point.
the conservative party in the
Let me talk when you're ready,
Canada
bud.
had like a 20-point lead on the Liberal Party in Canada before Trump was inaugurated. Trump gets inaugurated, imposes tariffs on Canada. They reimpose tariffs on us. Then Trump is like, "Oh, my bad, guys." He folds. They reduce the retaliatory tariffs on us. There's now this anti-American sentiment in Canadians, and they turn around and they elect a Liberal. Seemingly, this was a pretty bad decision that Trump made.
Okay, so what you just said is Canada originally had tariffs on us. We're like, okay, we're going to put tariffs on you. They then tariffed only the red states, right?
Yeah, and then increased retaliatory targeted attacks against red states, which then led Trump to folding because he didn't want that. They then paused that retaliatory attack. Strong anti-American sentiments then grew in Canadians, and then Canadians voted and elected a liberal because of the anti-American sentiment, because of Donald Trump's original tariffs. Donald Trump achieved nothing and only further emboldened liberal movements in the state of, not in the state, but rather in the country of Canada. Tell me how that's a Trump W.
Okay, so I'll repeat without like you going this whole ramble because you just proved my own point. Canada had tariffs on us. We put tariffs on them. They put tariffs on the red state. Trump goes, "Oh crap, that's bad," right? Then we pause on them. They have paused all tariffs on us since then. So that $100 billion they made from us in 2024 and whenever else is gone.
Yeah.
So now there's free
for sure.
trade.
Would you mind indicating to me a source that they paused all tariffs on our country compared to the retaliatory tariffs?
Yeah, let's just look it up. Because now I believe that there's free trade. Which is exactly what everyone wants.
Sure.
Because
I would really appreciate if you'd be able to indicate that source to me.
Yeah. Has Canada paused tariffs on the U.S.?
No, all tariffs, not just specifically the retaliatory tariffs that were originally announced against red states.
Yeah, let's just look it up. And then we could talk about India, China, all their tariffs too. Because they've all had above 50% tariffs on the U.S. Okay. It's not fully lifted, but it's majority. So I guess. So,
Thank
okay.
you. So I
Yeah,
guess
so
in proving
10%
your point, you prove my point.
Okay, so that accounts for 10% of total imports, and that's probably our strongest partner. The whole point of the tariffs is not Canada. But yes, you were right on that exact point. The point is China becoming a world power, taking 15% of our jobs since 2017. But I agree with you, Canada.
Did you know that
okay.
there's more offshore jobs under Trump's administration compared to Biden and Harris's? And in fact, under the Biden-Harris administration, we saw a fucking boom in investment in American industries and manufacturing because of bills like the Infrastructure Bill or Chips and Science Act. And then since Trump's inauguration, it's went back to stagnant.
Yeah, that's great. I hope.
I have a question. How is going from a boom in investment into American manufacturing to a stagnation in investment in American manufacturing a good thing for American manufacturing?
That's not. I'm not saying I voted Trump.
thing.
I'm just saying that constantly hating on the tariffs, which have proven results so far, is not the
one proven result of the tariffs is like
is the market
American
going up
manufacturing.
5% last month.
No, that was a response to removing the tariffs.
The unemployment rate is lower than it was when Biden was.
Random, I think
it's down month over month.
So first of all, you're simply not responding to what I'm saying. I don't know why you're not responding to what I'm saying
Okay,
because what I'm
just
saying
say
is
it.
clear. But then additionally, like once again, you're saying that the tariffs are the reason the market is up 5% in the last month. The only reason it went up 5% in the last month is because he put his pause on the tariffs, which caused it to go down 5% to begin with.
It's called an negotiation.
Unironically, imagine that you're at school, a bully comes up to you, takes a $20 bill out of your back pocket and says, "That's mine now, fuck you," punches you in the face. Comes back a week later, gives you that $20 bill back, and puts some fucking Neosporin on the cut, and then all of a sudden, I guess that bully's an entrepreneur genius, right? Because that's what you're saying about Trump. But as it relates to the tariffs, you're saying that they've had great impacts on American industries. Explain to me how stagnation and investment into American manufacturing, as well as negative GDP growth, which means these companies aren't growing, they're shrinking, is good for American industries.
I already talked about the GDP thing. It's because other companies had to stockpile in the first quarter. If you take out that stockpiling, GDP actually
wait. So I don't think that I have any evidence to indicate that this is the case. In fact, I don't know if I'm willing to do that because that would be considered an investment in American industries, and we saw that stagnate.
No. That's not how it works. So
stockpiling product would be an investment in the industry.
It's bad.
Wait. Okay. A stockpile of product would be an increase in investment in the industry, right?
No, because they were planning on not buying as much in quarter 2 and quarter 3. Because they had to.
What do you think business investment is?
What do you mean? What is business investment?
Define business investment.
Investing in business.
Okay. Would you say stockpiling product is investing in business?
Now we're stockpiling from other countries because we want to buy
which is
stuff from our
investing
own
in business, right?
No.
What? That is definitionally speaking an investment in one's business. Like expenditure on product or no. Listen to me. Expenditure on product or expenditure on the raw materials required to make product is you taking your revenue and putting it back into your business, which is definitionally speaking a business investment.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so we could agree that this is business investment, right?
Okay. Can I read to you what the Wall Street Journal said?
Can I please just have you?
Are you smarter than me?
Can I please just have you agree or disagree that would be considered a business investment?
Yes, that is a business investment.
Okay, well, we saw no macro increase in business investment in the first financial quarter of 2025. In fact, compared to prior quarterly growth, it went down and has stagnated, meaning that this is not the reason that we would therefore see a macro decrease in GDP growth. And in fact, I'd attribute larger reasons to reductions in consumer confidence, thereby increasing the savings rate and decreasing the expenditure rate. But once again, the original point that I'd like you to respond to, also feel free to respond to that point. I want to make sure you have an opportunity to. Why don't you go ahead and respond to that first?
Okay, so according to the Wall Street Journal, the downturn is driven to a significant surge in imports, slowdown in consumer spending, and a reduction in government expenditures. Correct? Okay, so we both completely
you just proved yourself wrong.
That's not the point whatsoever.
You just proved me right.
Yeah, about what?
Yeah, because you're the one saying that the reason that we had a reduction in GDP growth and slimming GDP in the first financial quarter of 2025 was because companies were spending more on their imports. Okay, well, I mean, I said originally.
I agree with that.
Now, that's probably like one minuscule reason that I don't think overall was too impactful on the macro level. I'd say it's more because of reduction.
That is the
I'd say it's more so. No. Are you going to let me finish speaking or are you going to continue to interrupt me like a child?
Go.
I would not say that was impactful on the macro level. The reason I'd say that was not impactful on the macro level is because we didn't see any impactful increase in business investment on the macro level. I would say other attributes, such as a reduction in consumer spending, increases in consumer savings because of a reduction in consumer confidence, is significantly more impactful on the macro level. But even if I accept that it's a combination of these three facts, as I did originally, you would still be wrong, as you did not claim a combination of these three facts. You claimed it to be one.
Okay, so are you ready for this?
Yeah.
Imports rose by 41% quarter over quarter from quarter 4 to quarter 1. And you don't think that's the major part?
No, I don't. Or else we would have seen
41% over month is not meaningful to you?
I don't think it's meaningful insofar as attributed to negative GDP growth. Because if it was meaningful insofar as attributed to macro negative GDP growth, we would have also seen that as a meaningful increase in business investment.
Okay. According to the Wall Street Journal, this import surge subtracted approximately 4.8% points from the GDP growth rate. So do you agree with me now?
So you're saying that this attributed to it? Wait, we didn't. Our GDP only shrunk by 0.4%.
Exactly. It actually went up.
It actually went up. What is the Wall Street Journal? What is the Wall Street Journal saying?
The journal is saying that the GDP growth was negative month over month because of an increase of surge of imports. Imports went up 41% from quarter 4 to quarter 1. And that import surge subtracted approximately 4.8% percentage points
I'm
from the
fine to
growth rate.
agreeing that there's three
Okay.
reasons
Thank you.
that the GDP went down. I'm not conceding. This is what I originally said that you denied. You should be thanking me.
I just read you the Wall Street Journal.
My original claim was that GDP growth went down because of a surge in imports, alongside a reduction in confidence leading to a reduction in
increase in
consumer
imports.
spending.
It went up because of an increase in imports.
Yeah, I said the GDP went
Yes.
down because of an increase in imports, a
we
reduction in
agree.
consumer confidence, and a reduction in consumer spending. Those three attributes are which led to negative GDP growth in the first financial quarter of 2025, which can once again all be attributed to what? Donald Trump's economic policy.
And then
we've seen said reduction of imports if he didn't implement his policy?
And then the federal bank has
Answer my question.
estimated
Would we have
GDP
seen
growth
said
of-
reduction? Would we have seen said increase in imports if he didn't run on and or implement his policy?
Correct. GDP growth would have been
No,
positive.
I didn't ask for a correct. I asked for a yes or no. Is it the case that we would have seen a reduction in the American GDP in the first financial quarter of 2025 if Donald
No.
Trump didn't run on and implement his policy?
No.
So then my claim, the reason why we had negative GDP growth in the first financial quarter was 110% because
Yes,
of his policy is true.
Okay, perfect. Then look at
Great,
the estimated
great.
GDP growth of next quarter.
Great. Yeah, I think like what? The Atlanta Fed has it at like 1.2%,
No,
which is
no.
down from
Up to
2.5.
3.5 now. Up to 3.5 now after China's agreement over the weekend.
Well, I mean, I guess we'll have to see how it plays out because the Atlanta Fed is therefore in contradiction with J.P. Morgan, who's officially projecting a recession in this financial year.
So you're going to trust a publicly owned company that's for profit over a federal bank?
Wait, you understand? You understand that the Atlanta Fed is also a private entity that's simply managed and operated by the Federal Reserve.
Exactly, and the Federal Reserve is not with the politics. Because remember how Trump wanted to impeach Jerome Powell? We need to keep the central bank separate from the government. The government can play roles within the actual banks itself because of different kind of government spending they provide to them.
Could you repeat that for me? Sorry.
Okay, so the Federal Reserve is very different than JP Morgan. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Because I agree with you. Trump tried to impeach Jerome Powell, and that just was not okay.
Yep.
I agree with you on that.
Yeah, and then
But I think-
then you went back to saying who would I trust more, the Federal Reserve or J.P. Morgan? I mean, I'd say that we wouldn't have one reason to trust one entity over another.
The only reason is JP Morgan has more to make off of it. So that's why I would lean towards...
Arguably, there'd be some bias that they'd have against reporting a recession. For instance, individuals are going to be less likely to go to them and get loans.
They make more than money off S&T, sales and trading, which they actually saw record profits last quarter because of the volatility. But, I mean, I think we agree on that point of, you can go back and forth with either of them.
Yeah, you could go back and forth. I mean, that's why I say we'll just have to see how it plays out. Because, there's some self-interested reasons insofar as why the Atlanta Fed would project a recession, not project a recession. Same thing with J.P. Morgan.
Mhm.
Overall, I would say that, these larger financial institutions, they are fiduciaries. At least they offer fiduciary services. And I'd find it, interesting if they'd, correct wrong information based upon bias while also operating as a fiduciary for their clients, which would indicate that they'd use those internal projections inside of their fiduciary duties. That's incredibly illegal. So for that reason, I don't think an argument could be made that the Atlanta Fed is more reliable than JP Morgan.
Okay. So we agree that you can go back and forth. I trust the Fed more than public companies. You say you can go back and forth. We both agree.
Well, I mean, we also have to consider the other two financial quarters. I guess we'll see what occurs. Can you consider that? For instance, it could be the case that the recession in which JP Morgan is predicting, it does not include in the next financial quarter. However, it would include the last two of the year.
I agree with that.
So, even if it was the case that we could trust the Atlanta Fed more than J.P. Morgan, which we have now agreed we can go back and forth on, and inevitably we just have to wait and see. Two things can be true at once. The Atlanta Fed can be true about their predictions of financial growth in the next financial quarter. Meanwhile, we could still see two financial growths of negative GDP growth at the end of the year. But at the end of the day, I don't think that J.P. Morgan would be projecting a recession this year if Kamala Harris had won.
Okay, and that's fair. Even if Kamala won, I hope there's not a recession or anything. And obviously, we can go back and forth on all these different economic
Do you think that we would have negative GDP growth in the first financial quarter of this year if Harris won?
Nobody knows. That's the hard part.
Dude, I do. Well, at least the Atlanta Fed did, who you just said was reliable.
Yeah, I would consider them reliable. And
so then you do know because they projected GDP growth prior to Trump's inauguration, and then you also conceded that the only reason we had negative GDP growth was because of his policy. So you'd actually have to indicate that, yes, we would have had GDP growth. You'd have to claim knowledge of that. You'd have to say, yes, we do know that.
Yes, I agree with you on that. But also then at the same time, projections for GDP growth might be higher now than they were under Harris. The whole point is we don't know. And the whole point of me arguing with over this is they're not all bad. It could go good, it could go bad, but like we have to play it out. So you can't just strictly say, "Oh, they're so bad, they're so bad." They might be, but there's a lot of potential pros too.
So I think that the issue is like you could like name off like potential pros in the long term of Donald Trump's implementation of tariffs now. However, I find it to be merely speculative at best, and I don't find the same to be true of the policy in which Kamala Harris offered. You're taking a Hail Mary on the back of a recession and the distribution of wealth from the poor to the rich. Meanwhile, I was making a strongly like a claim with confidence as relation to cutting taxes on the average American and the overall positive outcomes that would have had for the American economy.
Yeah, I mean, if Harris did that, that's great. I'm not
That's
arguing.
why I think that our policy was better because yours
Yeah.
rides on the back of a Hail Mary associated with a recession. Hers didn't.
I agree. I think Harris's policy was better, but that's not what I came to debate. I came to debate what the tariffs were doing
Who
now.
did you vote for?
I voted. Well, I didn't vote actually, but I didn't come to like argue tariffs. I more so just came to argue or I didn't come to argue Harris versus Trump. I came to argue the actual tariffs itself.
Wait, so is the conclusion of your argument on tariffs is that it essentially is a Hail Mary on the back of a potential recession?
No.
Okay.
I think it's kind of we have to pivot at the point.
Explain to me which part of that statement is false.
The point of that is not like Trump's idea was not. Oh.
So you conceded that it was speculative by Hail Mary being speculative.
No, we're not going to throw a Hail Mary in return for recession.
So then it's not speculative. So then you actually would have a justified economic argument to demonstrate that the long-term benefits of the tariffs are going to be a net positive. What is it?
Okay, according to the Fed, they are a net positive right now. Like I don't know what you're getting at.
According to the Fed,
Yes.
is that based upon the projections from the Atlanta Fed?
GDP growth, unemployment rates.
Wait, how can you possibly indicate
stock
that the Atlanta
market.
Fed projecting 2 to 3% growth in the American GDP in the second quarter of 2025 is a net
Which is a
positive
record.
because of the tariffs?
Because that's what's causing that growth.
I don't think that you'd be able to attribute that all to the tariffs. I think what you might be able to argue is because we saw a pause on the tariffs, that we're going to experience more growth than we would have otherwise because we're going from a lower point compared to what a higher point would have been. And then B, I don't think that you'd be able to attribute the rest of that growth to the tariffs alone. Why would you attribute the rest of that growth to the tariffs alone?
When GDP growth went down in the first quarter, you attribute it all to the tariffs. But when it goes up record amounts in the second quarter, you say, no, that's not the tariffs.
Well, actually, I'm not saying no. I'm asking you for your argument the same way I gave you my argument, not merely saying that it happened because they were associated insofar as when they were implemented, but rather it happened because it gave us a reduction in consumer confidence, which led to an increase in consumer spending, savings and therefore a decrease in consumer expenditure alongside an increase in imports from American companies. So I was able to give you an argument to justify that the reduction in the GDP was caused by the tariff. So what is your argument to justify that the increase in the GDP would be caused by the tariffs?
I actually don't know if consumer spending confidence is. Originally, it was down that much, but unemployment recently came out much lower than expected. Great, right? The US dollar is down, which is making exports much cheaper. Great. We can refinance a bunch of trillions of dollars of debt that's upcoming that's due. Great.
Oh,
China-
refinance at lower rates? Too bad Jerome Powell isn't going to cut the rates.
Yes, he is. If you could look up CME Fed futures, which are what
He said that he wasn't going to cut the rates, or maybe not cut them at the level in which he was going to cut them originally. What I'm saying is true, by the way.
No, he's going to cut 25 basis points.
Okay.
Originally, they were going to cut 0.
Okay.
He's being forced to cut now because of the tariffs.
I don't know, man. He said on a podium literally a week and a half ago that he was not going to cut rates.
I promise you, he will cut 25 basis points.
According to
so
him?
you can look up. Yes, you could look up CME Fed futures right now, which is what all major banks use to predict the the Fed rates. And currently, there's an 82.7% chance of a 25 basis point cut.
So basically, they think he's going to change his mind.
Yes.
Okay. You know what? If that was to occur, I'd say that was because of the pause of tariffs and basically the fact that these financial institutions don't think they'll be re-implemented.
Yes, he's cutting the tariffs because Jerome Powell's cutting rates because of the economic uncertainty caused by Trump, which is questionable. I agree with that. That is kind of like forcing the Fed to cut rates is kind of questionable, but that's what's going to happen.
But seemingly, this doesn't justify the tariffs because the reason in which these big companies are projecting that he will cut the rates is because he's not going to re-implement the tariffs because of the uncertainty that they created last month.
Good. We don't want to recreate the tariffs. We don't want.
So then you can see that the tariffs are bad. That's my point.
Perfect. But what's happening now?
Okay,
We're negotiating.
I win the debate. You
to
lose
get
the
equal
debate.
trade.
I win the debate. You lose the debate.
No, we're getting equal trade now. That's the whole point.
I mean, apparently we could have achieved equal trade outside of the use of
why didn't we?
implementation of the tariffs. We did actually.
Well, we didn't.
Quite frankly,
Okay,
Donald Trump brokered the USMCA with Canada and Mexico, which he believed was equal.
Perfect. That's 15% of our imports. What about the other 85?
You know, I wish that we would focus on trade agreements with other countries, meaning that I wish that Donald Trump would have pulled out of the TPP during his first administration. Another bad decision the Orange Man made.
Me too. The 15% doesn't matter. 85% is so much bigger than 15%. For reference, India's had a
arguably, I'll take like a little bit lower imports via tariffs that other countries have imposed on us compared to like a potential recession and forcing the Feds to cut rates to respond to market uncertainty. You know, like, just saying, like, it arguably might have been better just to wait Trump out, acknowledging that he wouldn't be able to entertain or introduce or go into better trade agreements with other countries. Vote for Kamala Harris, who, like, I don't think ran on better trade agreements with other countries, but was incredibly focused around the domination of American industries by investment into American industries through subsidies as well as private investment. And that would have been significantly better than implementing tariffs, causing market uncertainty, reduction in quarterly GDP growth, official projection of a recession this year, forcing the Feds to potentially cut rates.
That's good.
Like, I think that's all like in a total net sense worse than the opposite.
All that you're saying is good right now. Like, I'm so confused why you keep bringing up Canada, Mexico. That's 15% of our 100% of imports.
Wait, if everything I just said was good, then like
That's
what
good.
you're saying is bad because the
GDP growth going
the
down.
outcome of what I'm saying is that the tariffs were a total net loss.
No, GDP growth going down is good because it's expected to raise higher than what it was. Is that good? Would you agree with that's good?
To eat it one quarter, to have it higher in the next?
Overall, yes. GDP growth will be higher year over year in comparison if we did not
Because
have the
of the
tariffs.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Give me an argument for that.
According to the Fed and JP Morgan probably.
Okay, give me the argument for that because you're just saying that they're now predicting an increase in the level of like GDP growth, and you're making a correlation causation argument insofar as associating it with the tariffs being signed into law then repealed. You're not giving me like certain evidence that this is the case because of the tariffs. Like indicate to me the evidence that the tariffs is what is causing higher GDP growth in further quarters.
A 43% quarter over quarter import surge. Another point though, if consumer spending,
Wait, so you're saying that the tariffs are going to increase GDP growth by importing more products?
No.
Weren't you earlier the one that indicated that's what led to slow GDP growth?
Exactly, which then increases it more over more as we cut these deals. But you wanted me to bring up another point to counter your point.
Wait, I don't understand what point that counters.
Oh my God, we're going in a fucking circle. Okay, so you said GDP growth went down in quarter one. It's so bad. Yes.
Right,
That's only because
of the reasons why I believe that was caused by the tariffs. Yep.
Yes, and then the Fed, all these people that are projecting GDP growth to go up next quarter, that is coming from a decrease of the import surge.
It's coming from
because everyone's stockpiling for quarter one.
So this quarter's GDP is going to go up because of a decrease in imports caused by the imports in the first quarter.
Because of better trade agreements, decrease of unemployment rates, increase in consumer spending, decrease in interest rates, all of these things. These are all good things. Same with the US dollar going down. That is good for exporting goods to other countries, which will increase GDP.
So now the GDP is going to go up because of better trade agreements. I find that to be merely speculative.
Okay, you said consumer confidence is going down, right?
Yeah, because of the first quarter.
Then why did unemployment rate go down? Wouldn't companies not want to hire more?
Yeah, I don't know, but I do know that consumer confidence went down. I mean, that's an undeniable fact. We wouldn't have seen like a 7% drop in the S&P 500 if the consumer confidence didn't go down.
Except now it's up, right?
Except now it's up because the tariffs were placed on pause, demonstrating that it was caused by the tariffs in the first place, and the tariffs are bad. Fucking hell. Do you think that it was Trump's intention to pause the tariffs?
Yes. Why would we want to have tariffs?
Oh my God. Wait, so you're basically saying that Donald Trump is playing 6D chess and Trump didn't fold. It was his intention in the first place. Like he meant to impose tariffs on every other country in the world just to turn around and pause them. So you admit that Donald Trump is like, in a sense, manipulating the market.
Manipulating the S&P 500 is not the goal. So the actual like financial market, like we're talking like NASDAQ, Dow Jones.
So I just really want to clarify on your argument. Like seriously, your argument is Donald Trump's plan was to introduce the tariffs and then quickly repeal them. And it was all this big bluff and it was 6D chess.
And it's working. China's been renegotiating our tariffs. India wiped them.
So
India
China said that they wanted to achieve fair tariffs. What does that look like?
It looks like more equal trade among key sectors like aluminum, iron, all this stuff.
But like be very specific with what their tariffs will be.
Like the actual numbers?
Yeah.
I don't have a crystal ball for that.
Okay. Well, I mean, what are the indicators?
The indicators.
Can you give me a source from like China? Yeah. China announcing that they want fair tariffs. I saw that.
Yeah, that's great, right?
Yeah, but how do you know that those fair tariffs aren't what they just were before?
I mean, we're just gonna have to like wait for those numbers to come out. Like, would you agree if China dropped their tariffs against us, that'd be good?
oh yeah, if China dropped their tariffs against us, that'd be good because they wouldn't have 15% tariffs on us anymore, purely caused by Donald Trump's tariffs. I'd say that you have essentially no evidence to indicate that the tariffs that they'll inevitably have on us coming out of this deal will be any lower than the tariffs that they had going in. In fact, historical evidence would indicate otherwise, because whenever we've imposed tariffs on them, they've merely increased them on us, and it's ended up hurting us. Like, for instance, during their first administration, when we tariffed their aluminum, when we tariffed their steel and their washing machines, they then turned around and increased their tariffs on us, and American farmers went bankrupt.
Okay. So you said you want to steer away from China, right? Also, I disagree with you, but we're running in a circle.
Wait. You can't disagree with what I just said. In fact, even Donald Trump acknowledged that it was true, and that's why he subsidized American farmers and bailed them out with $28 billion through a bill in Congress.
So what do you think we should do with China? Because we've lost 15% of our jobs in our like automotive industry.
Yeah, what we should do about China is be focused on investing into American industries. I mean, it worked under Biden and Harris's term. I think it will continue to work in the future. Not to mention that their GDP growth is completely stagnant.
And do you know how much the Middle East has invested in the U.S. since these tariffs? We are bringing more investment in now.
Not true.
Yes, that's true.
My source is the Fred.
Okay, same with Taiwan. Taiwan is
one second. Once again, external investment into American industries is stagnated. Source is Fred. Just search up investment into American industries, FRED. It'll be the first source. You're wrong.
Investments went stagnant.
You just literally, you don't even need to like look it up with like the added bias of went stagnant. Literally, just type in FRED, investment into American manufacturing. It's been stagnant since Trump was inaugurated.
Within the last month.
It's been stagnant since he was inaugurated. Not even within the
last month.
Including
so
the last month, though.
We're taking just data from a month and a half or 2 months.
Yeah. That's since his inauguration. That's what I claim since it's been stagnant from. You're the one that claimed it's gone up since then. I'm the one that claims it hasn't, and FRED reflects that as a fact.
All right, I don't see it, but I looked up Fred investment into manufacturing. Are we talking? Will GPT work for this?
What?
As investment into.
Just search up Fred real private fixed investment.
Okay.
And then you'll see something that says percent change from preceding period. Can't believe that you just referenced that you're using ChatGPT. Don't use ChatGPT. Don't ask.
You don't agree with it?
Um,
It's a phenomenal company, actually.
You're a Sam fan?
Yeah, I actually think it's great. I mean,
hey man, guess what?
I prefer Perplexity, but
so yeah, actually, in the first quarter of 2025, it went down by 4.3%.
I'm actually seeing up to 25 billion.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
No, look at what are you, I literally look up Fred real private fixed investment non-residential structuring manufacturing.
May 7th. Planned U investments 11 billion. Wall Street Journal 11 billion. The Times 150 billion.
You're looking at like very specific like instances of like some companies do it. That's why it's important to look at the macro at like the macro data. Like, you know, like one company is not a macroeconomic indicator. That's why I'm using Fred, okay, to look at the data across the entirety of America.
You're saying.
Yeah, once again, go to Google, type in Fred real private fixed investment non-residential structures manufacturing, and you will see in the first financial quarter of 2025, it went down by 4.3%.
So this is just non-residential stuff, right?
It's
Do you think
residential manufacturing?
Do you think residential stuff matters?
Not when you're talking about manufacturing, no.
No, so residential and non-residential make up the whole economy, just not non-residential.
I thought so. You were very specifically referencing investment in manufacturing.
Yes, that's residential and non-residential. This is just non-residential. So like we have to find a whole thing for it because I haven't found that either yet, right?
I mean, let's see if they even have it. No, it looks like the last time that they had any data about residential investment was 2024.
So like that's the hard part. Like you just called me out for a specific source, but then I also just called you out for a specific thing.
Well, the only indicator that we have is about non-residential manufacturing investment.
And
that's like the only data point that any of us have.
I just said 5 different data points about 150, 50, 55, like all these mini ones. And if you'd add up those residential ones.
So A, like it's possible that what we're both saying is true because I'm referencing to the percentage change right? So although like in the first quarter of 2025, there was $125 billion invested into American manufacturing, which makes sense because business investment has to always occur in order for the economy to be functioning. That's down 4.3% from the quarter before.
Oh, perfect. Found it. So real GDP in the first quarter went down 4 or whatever percent. We know that, right? But with investment, it actually went up.
No, false.
Yes.
No,
So that's
no.
good.
Once again, I'm telling you that it's false. The real private fixed investment into American manufacturing went down by 4.3% in the first financial quarter of 2025, according to FRED. Like, why are we doing this loop?
That's non-residential. You have to look at the whole picture.
There's no data for residential investment. No, or what we reported by Fred.
BEA.gov. That's a .gov website. It says the percentage. Yes. So it shows the contributions percentage change to real GDP in first quarter. Investments actually increased it.
Investments increase the GDP?
Yes.
Okay.
So investments in America.
Wait, I just want to be incredibly clear. I'm not talking about the GDP. So investments can increase the GDP while investments are still down from what they were at the preceding quarter.
What are you saying?
I'm saying that we're specifically referring to how much money was invested in the last financial quarter of 2024, in the first financial quarter of 2025. There was less money invested in the first financial quarter of 2025.
Okay. I also just see the amount of investment in this category.
Seriously, do you have a source that specifically demonstrates that there was an increase in the quarterly level of investment into American manufacturing from the fourth financial quarter of 2024 to the first financial quarter of 2025?
Yes.
What is it?
The amount of investment in this category was about 80% higher than the amount at the end of 2022. Industrial policy legislation acted in
2022.
Exactly. So it looks 2 years back. But
so I don't want something that looks 2 years back. I want something that looks 1 quarter back. This is referencing the quarterly change associated with the policy. Dude, this is like saying, well, after the S&P 500 dropped 7% because of Trump's tariffs, if we reference that to where the S&P 500 was at in 2008, it was still higher.
I mean, you can't find me anything that said it doesn't. So like,
yes, I can. Fred, FRED, real private fixed investment in manufacturing went down.
You just told me a
by
sector. Non-residential is not the whole thing.
There's
non-residential is not both.
There's absolutely no data on residential. One second. We have no data on residential investment since March of 2024. B, residential and non-residential investment follow a positive correlation. When one goes up, so does the other. When one goes down, so does the other. C, non-residential investment accounts for a vast fucking majority of investment in manufacturing. A vast majority of investment in manufacturing.
Like what percent?
I'm unaware. Now,
so we don't know what it is.
When the only data that we have to operate off of is non-residential manufacturing investment.
No, we don't.
Okay, yes, we do. Give me the data insofar as how much was invested into residential manufacturing in the first financial quarter of 2025.
Okay, so
if you don't give me this data, I'm going to kick you.
Companies announced $9.4 billion in new manufacturing projects during quarter 1 of 2025, marking a 47% increase from quarter 4 of 2024, according to Rhodium Group.
Okay, Rhodium Group. Who the fuck is Rhodium Group?
A huge investment fund.
Okay, well, what's Rhodium Group's source?
They have an investing arm. What do you mean? What is their source?
I mean, would you be able to give me the source that indicates that this is the case? Because, like, once again, it's not true.
I just gave you a stat.
Why is this not related on Fred? I gave you a stat. You're the one disputing the stat I gave you from Fred.
That's only non-residential. You have to look at residential and non-residential.
Fred reports the last time that there's data collected on non-residential investment in manufacturing was last year in March.
I'm literally looking at this, and I just.
And then once again, this is going to be investment into homes. Like once again, like residential manufacturing is how much money was invested into making homes. There's no data on manufacturing investment into making homes since the second quarter of last year.
I don't know what to tell you. I just read you a stat.
Find this relayed anywhere on Fred. The Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis, which, by the way, is the most reliable source for any and all economic data in America.
I don't know about that, but they didn't report they didn't report residential, so we can't find that with Fred.
If they didn't report residential, then there hasn't been residential reporting since the last 2 quarters.
So there's nowhere ever that represents a whole industrial manufacturing sector.
Yeah, if Fred's not reporting it, I don't think we'd be able to find it.
So we can agree we can't say what industrial stuff was. So you can't say there was a huge
I'd say that the
decrease
best indicator that we do have to say that is specifically from the non-residential manufacturing investment.
Okay, so what percent of non-residential makes up the industrial industry?
I'm aware. Can you tell me?
We can look it up because I don't know that off the top of my head. I'm not.
Then also, what was your source to demonstrate that there was quarterly growth from the last financial quarter of 2024 to the first financial quarter of 2025?
Rhodium Group.
Okay, what do I search up?
RHG.com.
RHG.com. Okay, well, that's a website. Where on the website do I find it?
You can look up.
Wait, just read off the URL that you're on.
RHG.com/research/clean-investment-monitor-us-clean-energy-supply-chains.
Okay. Wait, okay.
Like
Investment in energy? Okay. What the fuck? That's non-residential.
It's the industrial manufacturing industry. Like energy's a part of industry.
Hey. Is industrial manufacturing residential or non-residential?
What do you mean? You know, energy is a part of the industrial.
Is industrial manufacturing residential or non-residential?
It depends. Are they working?
It doesn't depend. Actually, quite frankly, it does not depend.
No, it 100% depends.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
How?
Because
if someone builds a house,
because industrial manufacturing literally implies that it's non-residential.
No, because if you build a huge apartment complex like that, it can be considered that.
Like an apartment. Well, then if it's considered that, then it would be related in the stats from Fred.
No, because it's not. It says on the website it's not. Like I want to find the stats.
So then that's included. So it's both industrial and non-industrial simultaneously. Okay, read me off the URL once again.
1 second, I'm reading this.
No. I want the URL. Read off the URL.
RHG.com/research/clean.
Slow down. Research/clean. Go ahead.
-investment.
Go ahead.
-monitor.
So rhg.com /research-clean.
Yeah, so rhg.com/research/clean-investment.
So /research/clean.
Yes.
-investment. Continue.
-monitor. -us. -clean. -energy. -supply chains. -chains.
Supply chains is one word?
Yeah. No. Supply -chains.
-change. Is that all?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Okay. Clean investment monitor, the state of U.S. clean energy supply chains. Okay. Since the U.S. enacted the IRA, manufacturing has emerged as the fastest growing segment of investment in clean energy technologies. Summary, since the U.S. enacted the Inflation Reduction Act, manufacturing has emerged as the fastest growing segment of investment in clean energy technologies. Quarterly investment into clean energy manufacturing is more than tripled from $2.5 billion in the third quarter of 2022 to $14 billion in the first quarter of 2025. Dude, I need to start fact checking my guests more. Why didn't I do this earlier? You're such a little fucking snake. You want to know why I think that you're such a little fucking snake?
Why?
It's because I asked you for overall investment into American manufacturing. Then you act as if the data that you're giving me is overall investment into American manufacturing. This is quarterly investment into clean energy manufacturing. And to make it even funnier, it is quarterly investment into clean energy manufacturing since the Inflation Reduction Act, which was a bill passed by the Biden-Harris administration that this article is praising.
Yeah, it was a great bill. I agree with you on that.
So why are you giving me data about clean manufacturing and energy investment when I'm talking about data for all investment into American industries? And then to take it one step further, you're shitting on me for only having data of non-residential manufacturing when you have data from literally just clean energy manufacturing.
And are you ready for this? I gave you that because I wanted to see what you thought when I gave you just a sector of the industrial energy. Exactly. It doesn't make sense just to look at one part of it. So you just looked all that up just to prove
you're a little fucking gaslighter. No, you didn't at all. No, you didn't at all. You're fucking gaslighting. No, you're absolutely gaslighting. You're so totally fucking gaslighting. Dude, just take the L. Accept the L, dude.
Oh, sorry. I thought you muted me. No, I just wanted to see what you felt like.
Okay, great. Well, I mean, then here's the claim. At this moment in time, the best data that we'd have to delineate quarterly investment into American industries, as that reported from Fred and non-residential manufacturing. If you would like to contest this claim, please give me alternative data. But that's the best data, the most reliable data that we have to operate off of at the moment.
Fair. When looking at that sector, you're right. When looking at energy,
Great.
you're not
So
right.
then you concede the claim that no, these tariffs are not causing an increase in business investment.
Unless we look at GDP growth, unemployment rate, consumer spending, currency deflation, all that stuff.
Once again, your argument that the tariffs is what has caused an increase in GDP growth for the second financial quarter of 2025 is because it's increasing investment in American industries. So once again, you're just back to making the same correlation causation claim without any evidence.
Which the claim comes from the Fed. But we don't want to talk about that,
No,
right?
once again, no, my claim is that you're baselessly associating the predictions for the second financial quarter of 2025 with being caused by the tariffs, and I don't think you have any evidence of that.
I just told you, the Fed. When you look up exactly of where that GDP growth comes from,
I want you to listen to what I'm saying. The Fed GDP now, GDP now,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
is a economic prediction model relating to GDP growth.
I
They
know what
don't
GDP is.
attribute specific reasons to GDP now.
Yes, they
Why
do.
are you lying?
It's each sector. So like you can see the growth in each quarter per sector.
I know,
right?
but they don't attribute the reasons for the growth.
Correct. So we have to make assumptions of it.
So that's why I'm asking you for an argument to demonstrate that the tariffs are the reason for the growth.
Because if companies, okay, so let's say companies abroad.
Jesus fucking Christ, you're such a snake.
If China decreases their tariffs on us, why would companies not make more money?
Once again, you have no evidence at this moment in time that China will have a net decrease in their tariffs on us, and you admitted to that earlier. Why are you being so bad faith now? You literally agreed. You literally agreed that you have absolutely no evidence to indicate that China will overall reduce their tariffs on America net earlier. You said, Dean, that is fair. It is a purely speculative claim that I cannot make. But now you're using what you admitted earlier as a purely speculative claim that you cannot make to justify an argument. Stop it.
Okay,
You
then look at the
already
United
admitted
Kingdom.
that this is not a good argument.
You look at the United Kingdom. They did drop their tariffs. Do you think that plays any role in our GDP growth?
Yeah, sure. Let's add 50 bill.
Great. So we agree with that.
Okay.
Same
So where's the rest of it coming from?
From the EU.
Honestly, not even 50 bill. Maybe like what? 10 bill?
So you think the whole Britain thing?
So what tariffs did the UK have on America, and then what did they drop them to?
Great, we can look. Because I actually don't memorize like all that stuff.
Oh. Wow.
What are you wowing about?
Reuters 2 days ago. US-UK deal is good news, but tariffs are still higher. Bank of England governor says.
What's the number?
They're higher. So actually, that's going to reduce the GDP.
Because the UK just decreased rates.
This is coming from Reuters 2 days ago, reported by the Bank of England. The Bank of England said that they're keeping higher tariffs on the US.
I'm reading that their tariffs on US were cut to 10%.
And the tariffs are remaining higher. Once again, I'm reading this from the Bank of England as reported by Reuters.
UK officials said that Trump auto tariffs would go from 27.5% to 10%, which would be higher, right? But that import taxes on steel and aluminum would go from 25% to 0, which matters more than the 10% tariff.
Okay, so they're increasing some tariffs, decreasing others.
Exactly. So like the more important tariff.
Yeah, well, one country increasing some tariffs, decreasing others, once again, just leads to the overall speculative claim that therefore this tariff is going to increase the GDP.
Okay, there's other EU countries that also have done the same. India's done the same. Like India had a 64% tariff on the agricultural.
Once again, and I think that there's other ways to achieve lower tariffs that these countries have imposed on us compared to tariffing them. Trade agreements would have worked significantly better, meaning that the tariffs are all around a bad idea.
I wish these countries never put tariffs on us in the first place.
Right, and the way that we should get them to reduce their tariffs on us is with use of trade agreements, not by counter-tariffing them. That's why I think that the tariffs are a bad idea.
It might be playing big hand, but it is working. So
okay, just like if I were to put a gun to my friend's head to get his JBL speaker, it would have worked to get the JBL speaker. But it was still a bad idea because it was the most abrasive means necessary. The tariffs really hurt our country as well as it reduces the likelihood that these other countries will work with us in future for their agreements.
Unless it's unemployment rate, GDP growth, or consumer spending.
My buddy Matt reached
or currency
out.
deflation.
So one reason for unemployment rate drop is that is that most of that decline can be explained by the drop in labor force participation rate from 64.2% to 64%. So it actually looks like the labor force participation rate went down, although the size of the labor force went up.
So you're reading directly into that, but you didn't read directly into why GDP growth went down in quarter one.
Once again,
So that's
I
kind of
already
playing.
did directly read into why GDP
So-
growth went down in quarter
Exactly.
one, and I was able
So
to
you're
explain to
admitting-
exactly why that is the case. What are you
Which is
saying?
import
I was
surge.
able to explain to you exactly why it is the case. You're cooked. Come
You
on.
had you thought it wasn't caused by an import surge. You did not know it was 43% quarter over quarter increase. You thought it was just because Trump bad, people don't want to spend money.
Okay, so I want
In
to.
reality,
So now you're floundering, and the way that you're floundering is by telling me that you're right, even though I just proved you wrong, because you were able to make a good point earlier. Sweet man, you're doing really well.
Prove me wrong about what?
Yeah, I proved you wrong about the case that you have no real argument to justify that projected
Other than
GDP
GDP
growth
growth?
in this. No.
Unemployment rate,
No, you're interrupting.
consumer
You're
spending,
interrupting me once
currency
again.
deflation.
You're interrupting me once again. Do you typically interrupt people when you start losing a debate?
Not losing.
Okay, so then why are you interrupting me?
You can go.
Right. Once again, you have no argument to justify that projected GDP growth by the Atlanta Fed can be attributed to Donald Trump's tariffs. Right? And in fact, right, you still have to deal with a projection of a recession this year by JP Morgan. And you said that it could go either way. We have reason to believe the Atlanta Fed. We have reason to believe JP Morgan. So if you are going to believe that, therefore, you can believe the Atlanta Fed, you'd also have to indicate that, therefore, you can believe JP Morgan. And if you're going to attribute tariffs baselessly to the speculative figures of projected GDP growth in the next financial quarter, you're going to also have to baselessly attribute that to the potential recession. Right? So
Am I
once
allowed to
again,
talk
just
now?
back to my original claim that it's nothing more than a speculative Hail Mary.
Okay, am I good to talk now?
Yeah.
I'll make sure it's okay with you. Okay, so you said JP Morgan's causing a recession, tariffs, all that, right? What do you think is more important? 2 quarters of negative GDP growth? Wait, question. You said JP Morgan projects the recession, right?
Yeah.
Which is two consecutive quarters of GDP decrease, right?
Yeah, so either they disagree with the Atlanta Fed for the projections of the second financial quarter of this year, or they're projecting it for the last 2 financial quarters. Of this
JP
year.
Morgan is projecting increase in GDP next quarter.
Yeah, so then they're probably projecting it for the last 2 financial quarters of this year. There you
So
go.
how are they projecting? Oh, so you think they're projecting the last 2 quarters?
I mean, that's likely. I mean, like logically speaking, those are the only
Oh.
2 quarters that are left, given that they actually are projecting GDP growth in the next financial quarter.
You stuttered a little bit there. So just kind of representation of don't call me out for that.
I stuttered because I literally have a stutter. Are you trying to use the fact that I have a stutter to make it seem like you're winning the debate? Bro, leave.
Maybe I have a stutter. You came at me first.
I've never come at you for a stutter.
Mm-hmm. You said stop blabbering. You said, oh, do you normally stutter when you lose an argument?
Absolutely not. I said, do you normally interrupt when you're losing an argument? Why are you being such a bad faith weasel?
Okay, so if we look
No,
at
don't just leave that. No, and then absolutely not. We're not just going to move on from that. Why did you just try to misrepresent what I said to such an extreme degree to justify you, like trying to use my stutter against me? What a fucking weasel. You're just lying and lying and lying. And then
If we go back in the slides, we'll say
when
that.
you get called out for straight up lying, okay.
About what?
About me saying that you were losing a debate because you were stuttering.
Yes, you did.
No, I didn't.
I will stand on that.
Okay, yo, YouTube.
If we went back on this,
YouTube,
great.
timestamp it. Timestamp it, YouTube. Timestamp
How
it.
do we
Give me
do-
the
how do we
timestamp.
do that?
Don't worry, you don't got to do anything.
Perfect.
My viewers over on the YouTube got it.
Okay, because that's not the first time you've been called out for something like that.
Well, actually, it is because I don't say, "Oh, you're stuttering, therefore you're losing," like you did.
Okay. So agree to disagree there?
No, we're not going
Because
to
I-
disagree because you lied.
Like you lied about the import surge?
So
Or
now
any
you're
other-
admitting to lying? Wait, well, with what evidence do you have that I lied about the import? Well, you know what? Actually, I'm not going to let you pivot. Stop it. Admit to lying.
About what?
Yeah, tell about me saying, do you typically stutter when you debate? When you're losing a debate?
I'm pretty confident you said something about me either stuttering, murmuring, or like can't catch my words.
Perfect. Well, it looks like we have a timestamp. How
Perfect.
good is
Because
that?
I'm pretty sure. Because when I was stuttering, because obviously I don't talk to thousands of people every day.
I'm going to kick you after this, by the way. Just thought I'd let you know.
Because you lost.
No, because you're being bad faith. Right? So
Am I
once
allowed to
again,
talk
just
now?
back to my original claim that it's nothing more than a speculative Hail Mary.
Okay, am I good to talk now?
Yeah.
I'll make sure it's okay with you.
327. Okay, it looks like we got the most recent timestamp. 327. We'll push that to 3. You're interrupting me once
Currency
again. You're
deflation.
interrupting me once again. Do you
That was
typically
before
interrupt
that.
people when you start losing a debate? You're interrupting me once
Currency
again. You're
deflation.
interrupting me once again. Do you typically interrupt people when you start losing a debate?
not losing.
It was before that.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, that is what you fucking quoted. You said that I said, and I quote, "Do you typically stutter when you lose a debate?"
No.
And then I said, "No, that's not what I said. I said, do you typically interrupt when you're losing a debate?" And now you're like, "Give me evidence." Roll back the tape. I give you evidence. I roll back the tape, and then you just shift the fucking goalposts even further. You're fumbling so hard. What are you like annoying like this, like in like your everyday life too? Like, is it just like impossible for you to admit that you're wrong?
When it comes to winning debates, no.
You're not winning, bro. You just got called out for being a liar, and then I proved that you're being a liar, but then you're still trying to defend your lie.
I mean, I didn't say I support Republicans because of their faith. It's because of economic policy and the results of those economic policies.
So I just want to clarify. So do you like typically lie when you're losing a debate too? Is that your new thing now?
Lie about the sources I've given you? And
no,
lie...
specifically, well, I mean, yes, actually you did lie about the source that I gave you. So yes, but more specifically what I'm referencing, you lied to prove a point. That's the furthest extent of the claim that you could make. Although I think that you're lying about that too, you still did lie. Now, about this specifically, you're lying about me saying that you stuttered and that's why you're losing. And then I claimed that I didn't say you stuttered. I said that you interrupted. And they're like, "No, you never said that." Then I give you a clip of me saying that, and then you shift the goalpost further. Admit that you're lying or get kicked.
Oh, someone just said it in the chat. You said, "Do you typically flounder?"
No, I said, "Do you typically interrupt?"
No, it was before that.
It was not. It didn't happen.
So
it just simply didn't happen. Either admit that you're lying or I'm going to kick you. It's simple.
Increase in GDP, decrease in unemployment.
No. I want you to. No. Sorry, man. I'm standing on principle here. I'm standing on principle here. Like I understand that this seems like a microcosm in relation to like the entirety of the conversation. Mm-hmm. However, it just demonstrates that you simply lack the virtues to make a concession about anything ever. And it's like, why would I debate somebody about economics when they don't have a personality that is good enough faith to even just concede that they were lying about me saying that you were stuttering, therefore losing? Like I'm so sorry. It's just like
don't care about feelings.
It's just like incredibly bad faith. So unless you could concede that you're lying, I'm just going to move on to the next.
You're pivoting to win right now. You're losing. The economic numbers I've given you are completely true.
No. Yes. Once again, you unironically argued that we had experienced an increase in overall American investment from the third quarter of 2022 to the first quarter of 2025 from $2.5 billion to $4 billion. But then I checked your source and indicated that was literally just because of clean energy investment when you're claiming that was indicative of the larger scale. So no, the figures that you've given me have not been completely true. In fact, your own source debunked that.
GDP go up, stock market go up, unemployment go down, currency deflate.
And then when I prove that your sources do not indicate your claims to be true, you then just move on to talk about a more vague general claim, and you don't respond to my specific refutation, because my specific refutation completely refutes and disproves what you're saying. So then you must make a new related argument that doesn't indicate to me that what I said to you was wrong. Like, once again, you're just shifting the goalposts now with your argument that the sources you've given me have been completely true, just like you did with your argument that I told you that you were stuttering, therefore you were losing.
So you just said I'm stuttering.
What?
Yes, you did say I was.
I said to your argument that I said that you were studying, therefore you were losing. That was your argument that I said that. That's not what I said because your argument was wrong. Come on, you're going to be bad faith about that too?
Dude, I'm not going to lie. I'm pretty sure you did. Because I took a step back.
I unironically just said, just like you did with your quote unquote argument that I said you were stuttering, therefore losing. That was the argument you gave me.
No, I was talking and I started stuttering, and then you called me out for, it was like flabbering or something.
Okay, so now you're saying that I said you typically do something that isn't stuttering when you lose.
No. And it's really confusing why you keep talking about this, and you keep saying I'm lying.
By the way, I'm not so sure what you just said was a word.
Floundering.
Floundering.
Yeah.
Okay. So something that isn't stuttering. Got it.
I mean, floundering means like struggling. So that's not like...
I'd say the predominant way that you've been struggling in this conversation is to keep a consistent narrative and admit when you're wrong.
other than when it comes to like straight statistics from the Fed.
No, once again, even the statistics that you've given me have been misrepresented by yourself. I already explained to you exactly how. You misrepresented the statistic, sir. Once again, you're shifting the goalposts. You misrepresented the statistic stating that we've seen an increase in business investment in the last financial quarter. Then you cited something that started tracking business investment in 2022, specifically for investment in clean energy, not macro level business investment in the slightest. That was a misrepresentation of the data provided. Admit that, or I'm going to kick you.
Non-residential industrial manufacturing.
I claimed it to be non-residential from the beginning. B, non-residential and investment in manufacturing is the only data we have. Therefore, C, if we are to make a claim about a stagnation, increase, or decrease in investment in manufacturing, and non-residential manufacturing investment data is the only data that we have, that is the only data that anybody could use to make a claim.
Yeah, I completely gaslit you into proving my own point, and you fell right for the trap. That was that whole conversation.
What the fuck are you saying? What trap did I fall for? You sound crazy.
You told me industrial.
You sound absolutely crazy. What the fuck are you saying? You sound insane. This guy's literally fucking crazy.
Can I talk for once? Holy.
You told me, Mr. Chess Genius, 60 chess.
You told me industrial investment went down. That was the whole argument. And then you brought up the non-residential point, and you told me that makes up such a large point of the industrial industry that nothing matters because there's no other possible point.
Okay, so now you're misrepresenting my point. Stop straw manning me. So I said the only data that we have, okay, the largest conglomerate of data for investment into American manufacturing is non-residential manufacturing investment. That is the largest and only macro level data point insofar as tracking investment in American manufacturing that we have and that we will have for the next 6 months before we also have non-residential data reported.
What's the difference in market size between the energy industry?
Clean energy? Specifically, clarify yourself. Yeah. You're being disingenuous again.
What is it?
What's the difference in market size? Wait. Do you seriously think that investment into clean energy since 2022 until now is a legitimate data point that is comparable to investment in non-residential manufacturing investment in the last 4 months?
No.
Great.
That is example.
So then don't make the comparison. Thank you.
What?
Yeah, you just try to compare investment into clean energy since 2022 to investment into non-residential American manufacturing in the last 4 months. It's so fucking bad faith.
You're right. It's like 8% of the total industrial industry, but non-residential.
Clean energy? I bet.
Yeah, it's 330 billion compared to 2.6.
We're gonna move on to the next guess. Yeah, that's when. I mean, hey, I'll be very clear. That guy, I'd say more educated than 99% of the other guests that come on the live. Okay? Better research than 99% of the other guests that come on the live. And what's really fucking unfortunate is that because of that, he has this like pompous ego and he can't just admit when he's wrong about anything. You know what I mean? It's really sad to see. Because if you want to get smarter than you are already, you have to be willing to admit that you're wrong. Anyways, what's up? Do you support Trump?
I do. And did you apologize for 2014 when you dressed up on blackface for Halloween?
I did not
do that. Did you ever apologize for that?
Could you show me?
Yeah, you did.
Show me.
Yeah, you did.
Show me.
You did.
Then show me.
In 2014, you wore blackface.
Then show me.
And you need to apologize.
Then show me.
You need to apologize.
Can I see?
Right now.
Let me see.
Apologize. Apologize.
Can you show me the picture of it?
That's wrong for you to do stuff like that and then to lie about it. And
then show me. Then show me. Then show me.
Try to scrub the internet.
Wait.
And you use blackface.
Question. Can I have a question?
Yeah. What was it?
This obviously means that you have a picture of me in blackface in 2014, right? When I was 10.
Want to get banned? I'm not going to show it and then get my account took. I'm not that dumb. Come on.
That's not going to get you banned.
Come on, bro. Will definitely get me banned.
How would that get you banned?
100%. Dude, okay, look at your following, right?
Wait.
And you have that many followers.
How would that get you banned?
Something like that. Because all your little minions are going to attack me.
I call me crazy. Like, I think that we could agree that blackface is morally wrong, but I don't think that blackface violates the TikTok terms of service. In fact, no, I know this. I know that it doesn't violate the TikTok terms of service. Remember, there's like that big video where like there's like the three white people that were wearing blackface and like filmed a video and posted it on TikTok, and it got like 300,000 likes, and it's still up until this day. And it was like a relatively larger controversy on TikTok. He left. He fucking left. Jesus Christ. I bet he didn't expect that. I bet he didn't expect that. I bet he really didn't expect me to ask for evidence. And the crazier part is that would be a really easy thing to give evidence for. What's up, Cole? How old are you?
Okay.
Oh, that is a child. Goodbye, Cole. That would be a really easy thing to give evidence to. Because if he knows that I did blackface in 2014, this would imply that he either saw me in person or saw a picture on the internet. We could obviously rule out seeing me in person. Therefore, he saw a picture of it on the internet. And if he saw a picture of it on the internet, it means he has a picture of it because that's how the internet works, which means he'd be able to show it to us all. No evidence. Sorry. Can I deny it? Yeah. Sorry, I guess I forgot to do that. I thought the claim was so outrageous, I just didn't deny it. Yes, I'll deny that I did blackface in 2014. Denied. Wrong. Never happened. Hey, what's going on? How old are you? Okay, not here. Moving on to the next guest. We're going to go to get the next guest, Charlie, up in the live. Hey, what's going on, Charlie? How old are you?
What's good, man? I've been on here before. I'm 18.
Oh, you've been on here before? We do typically just talk to individuals one time. And Sid, oh my God, thank you for the $200 super chat over on the YouTube stream. Sid says, for putting up with these people, Jesus Christ, thanks for showing up every day. Sid, thank you so much for the $200 donation, dude. That's nuts. Sid, that is so incredibly kind of you. I want to see 2,000 Sid W's down below in that chat, literally right the fuck now. Thank you so much for the love. That is so incredibly kind. Huge Sid W, huge fucking Sid W, literally right now. Thank you, thank you, thank you. As well as Brianna, thank you for the $50 over on PayPal. Saying, have you seen Trump's biggest announcement about cutting the prices of prescription drug pharmaceuticals 30 to 80 immediately, even though he's been calling for tariffs on them? Yeah, I have not seen that new announcment. I'll have to look into that, but he's inevitably going to increase the price on them. Huge shout out to Sid and Brianna. Y'all, please show some love to Sid and Brianna down below in that chat. You guys are so incredibly kind. Like, seriously, Sid, I just don't deserve that. Please show them some love. Literally right now. But apparently, according to Matt, that's not going to go through. But yeah. All right, guys, we're probably going to do one last guest of the night, y'all, before we end the stream here. Let's try to get Larry Wilson up on the stream. Quite frankly, that's the truth. Hello, Larry. Do you support Trump? And Larry is gone. Renee, thank you for the $50 donation over on Venmo. Thank you so much for the love, Renee. Dude, everybody, let's get 500 Renee W's. That is RENEE. Sorry, 2 E's, not 3. Renee says, start kicking the mid-sentence. I don't know. I try to be pretty nice to people, but sometimes I think it could be too nice. Like, I don't think that last conversation should have went on for like 2.5 hours. I'm not going to lie. But thank you so much for the love, Renee. Once again, Sid with the 200. I'm so sorry. Just more W's for Sid, W's for Renee, W's for Brianna. Thank you guys so much for the love. What is up, Excalibur? Do you support Trump?
Yes, I do. I just wanted to ask you what you thought about his executive order that enforces the law that already exists, that DOT is now cracking down on non-domicile CDLs and enforcing the law that's already on the books that says you need to read, write, and speak English to drive a semi. It's dangerous for those people to be driving semis. They drive down the price of freight. It's bad for the industry. It's bad for everybody. So him putting an executive order in that just enforces what's already in place is a good thing.
Well, I think the first step would be like actually like looking at like rates of like traffic accidents amongst like professional CDL drivers and comparing those that do speak English to don't speak English, because like I can understand the concern if like there was like a significantly like higher accident rate amongst drivers that don't speak English as they can't understand road signs. However, like I just simply don't think that doesn't exist in professional CDL drivers. The reason I don't think that exists in professional CDL drivers is because like typically like they use like navigation systems outside of just like following the road signs like you would in the 70s. And I therefore don't think that we'd see like a significant difference
Right.
in
Well, in
and-
navigation,
in like accidents. Also, like according to people in the chat, like you have to be able to read English to take the CDL test. And I'd say that like that alone is more than sufficient.
Right,
I don't think
but-
that speaking English is relevant at all.
they're not taking a test here in America. They're coming here under refugee status, and they have a pre-existing CDL from another country that we don't recognize, but they're able to use.
Then they can't be a professional CDL driver. If you're pulled over by a cop and you're like a CDL driver and you like apparently according to the cop you have to show that CDL certification to the cop's going to say, what the fuck is that? That is not an American CDL certification. You cannot be driving this big rig.
It's happening all over the place, and it's being allowed. And under the refugee status, I mean, you can look up accident after accident the last 5 to 10 years. Almost all of them are refugees.
Can you give me your evidence?
I mean, I can't provide it right here, but no. I mean, there's news stories all over. There's the one in Texas not too long ago. The one guy, the famous story that's on TikTok all the time.
Okay, I don't really care about like specific circumstances to justify like this point about like a generalization. I just don't think that's okay. Like, you know, like, oh, all of a sudden this is like me saying that, well, you could look at these stories of like young white guys shooting up schools. Therefore, like young white guys are just really predisposed to like violent crime with guns. And we need to specifically ban young white guys from being able to own guns. So.
I mean, yeah, I see your point. You're saying that it's anecdotal. It just seems to be I'm in the industry. I see it a lot. I drive on the roads with these guys all the time, and 9 times out of 10, a bad driver.
Can you
on
like
the road.
Oh, okay. Actually, there's no national data providing that non-English speaking CDL drivers are more likely to be in accidents. Nice. Okay.
All right. So again, under refugee status, they're coming here driving under non-domicile CDLs. They drive down the price of freight, making American truck drivers take loads for cheaper because of, again, foreign competition that doesn't hold a legal CDL in the United States. It's an exemption that's given for refugee status, and it's a serious problem. That's why Trump addressed it.
Okay, so I want it to be known that not every individual that doesn't speak English is a refugee.
No, that's true. I didn't say that.
So if the real issue was individuals that are refugees having and driving big rigs with a CDL license, well, the executive order would have then just specifically banned refugees from driving CDLs. Now, I actually don't know if I find any issue with refugees driving CDLs. What's the issue?
The issue is that they come here and they're driving under, again, a CDL that our DOT doesn't recognize, but it's under.
Yeah, they do. It's recognized. That's true. They could legally attain like American commercial driver's license. That's true.
Yeah, but they don't. They don't go through American truck driving school.
Okay,
they don't
so then they're on the road illegally. So then the executive order doesn't impact them at all because it specifically applies to individuals with CDLs. I still want to clarify. The executive order is for individuals that don't speak English with CDLs, and your reasoning to justify that is to talk about individuals don't necessarily speak English, okay? Because refugees can speak English and non-refugees cannot speak English, but refugees that don't even have a CDL. So this executive order does not apply whatsoever to anybody that doesn't have a CDL, including refugees.
The bigger problem, we'll stick to the speaking, writing, and reading English portion because that's what's pertinent.
I know, but can you answer my question? How does this impact refugees that are driving without CDLs? Because if they don't have a CDL, then they're not going to be fined. If they don't have a CDL, then they're not going to be impacted because the executive order is for individuals with CDLs.
Let's be honest, a lot of the refugees with bad CDLs are not going to be able to read, write, and speak English.
But this doesn't apply to them because they don't have CDLs.
Again, it's been being allowed.
But the executive order targets people with what?
It targets people with speaking, reading, and writing English.
With what? With what? With CDLs.
Well, yeah. When you get pulled over in a weigh station, they are now giving you a simple test to make sure you can read, write, and speak English. It's happening at checkpoints everywhere.
If you have what?
If you're driving a semi.
Okay, and you're saying that this is a good idea to crack down on refugees without CDLs that are driving semis.
And people.
So give me evidence. So give me evidence. I feel like maybe if we want to identify refugees, we shouldn't just ask if they speak English or not, because non-refugees can not speak English, and refugees can speak English, and that's just further perpetuating like racist stigmatizations. Wait, I have a question. So then would you say that citizens that don't speak English should still be able to attain CDLs?
No. If you can't...
What the fuck happened to the whole refugee thing, man? I thought that was the crux of your issue.
If you can't read, write, and speak English, all three, if you can't do all three of those things, you are automatically disqualified from obtaining a CDL. And you
Why?
down...
I disagree with that. Why do you think that's a good idea?
Well, I'll tell you, because you downplayed it and said, well, you use navigation systems now. You don't need to be able to read.
Precisely.
Well,
we don't see any demonstrable difference in accident rates from individuals that do or don't speak English. So why should we care?
So let me give you an example. You're coming up to the crest of a hill on a mountain, and at the crest there are usually signs indicating instructions on what to do.
Well, road signage. So you got to be able to read English. Guess what? You have to be able to read English in order to take the CDL test.
Yeah, exactly.
So they wouldn't have a CDL in the first place if they couldn't, at the bare minimum, read English.
Are you trying to tell me that it doesn't exist, that people with illegitimate CDLs are not driving on the road?
If people are driving with illegitimate CDLs, they're not going to be allowed to legally drive on the road. But I don't think that exists. No, I actually don't.
All right, so again, it's been being allowed. There's a reason why you put an executive.
No, it's not. That's not true. That's you understand that driving with a quote unquote illegitimate CDL is just like driving without a driver's license. That's not allowed.
Well, then you'd have to explain to me why it's happening everywhere.
Do people sometimes drive without driver's license everywhere? Yeah. Just sometimes people do things that are illegal.
Yeah, fair point. I just think the volume of what I see as a trucker, the volume of people who shouldn't be on the road, and it's obvious because they don't know simple trucker norms, things that truckers know, they don't, and you can see it in their driving.
What the fuck do you mean by that?
Like merging distance, like following distance, like proper speed for.
So you're telling me that we could identify people who aren't good at driving based upon their ability to speak English. That's essentially the reduction of your position.
Well, when somebody's going 80 miles an hour down a mountain, you question whether they could read the sign to lower their gear.
Oh, you said that is what you're saying. You're saying if you think somebody's bad at driving, that must mean that they're a migrant that can't speak English. God, dude. Holy fuck, though. Holy shit. Holy races. That's so bad. What's the relevant distinction between looking at a driver, seeing that they're driving bad, and saying, no, Caliber, listen to me. What's the relevant distinction between saying, looking at a driver, seeing that they're driving bad, and saying, yeah, they can't speak English, or looking at a driver, or other very common racist, xenophobic, and or sexist tropes associated with bad driving, such as looking at a driver, seeing that they're driving bad, then going, yeah, that's a woman, or looking at a driver, saying that they're driving bad, and saying, yeah, they're Asian. What's the difference between those two very obviously bigoted, stereotypical statements, and then the last statement, which I think is obviously bigoted and stereotypical, by looking at a driver, seeing that they're driving bad, and saying, yeah, they don't speak English.
So why is the observation that the majority of quote-unquote bad semi-drivers, the ones we're talking about, why is it that just observation, they all happen to be foreign.
Actually, observation would prove that one false. Like I said, there's no evidence to demonstrate that there's higher levels of accidents or related driving infractions as committed by individuals that cannot speak English compared to those that can. Also, not to mention that being foreign doesn't mean that you can't speak English. Just like being non-foreign doesn't mean that you can speak English.
Okay, again, I drive all over the U.S.
Oh, they're your observations.
I see it every day.
Okay.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Ask a trucker. If you know a trucker, ask one because they'll tell you the same thing.
Okay. All right, man. Well, speaking to your lens of bigotry. Like, unironically, it is.
Okay,
Because if all the truckers saw the same thing and non-English speaking truckers were so bad at driving, then we'd see like a higher average.
I have a question for you.
We'd see no. Because if like what you're saying is true, if all truckers genuinely did see a higher level of non-English drivers driving bad, then we'd see a higher accident rate in non-English drivers, and we don't.
Is observing something.
But your observations are simply not true. Because if they were true, then we'd see a higher.
Well, you're calling me racist and bigoted, so it is observing something. If that observation happens to point out a specific race or a gender,
Want to know
does
the
that
funny?
make you
Want to know
sexist or
Want to
racist?
know the funny
Just
thing?
observing something.
Want to know the funny thing?
What?
I actually haven't called you that. You just self-reported.
No,
it is what I think. It is what I think. But I have not vocalized that. I have not vocalized that yet. That is not something that I've vocalized yet.
You just did.
No, I asked you. Actually, no. I asked you what the difference was between these other very obvious racist, xenophobic, and sexist tropes and stereotypes, and then this one. And now you're just trying to justify it. You understand? Like now you're saying like so now you
were attributed to me.
Oh, no, I absolutely was attributing it to you, but I hadn't said that out loud yet. You're the one that said that out loud. And then I'd also like to point out the fact that now you're just trying to justify your bigotry. You're just trying to say that although...
I'm explaining my observations and the observations of the people around me in the industry.
Your observations don't fucking exist, or else we'd see higher accident rates. Answer this. Why don't we see higher accident rates amongst non-English drivers?
I would argue that we do.
Give me the data. Give me the evidence.
I'm not on a computer. I'm on my phone. I can't.
Then go on pause and find the website.
All right. How about this? I'll drop and I'll try to find an article for you, and then I'll come back. All right.
Okay. Yeah, just the evidence doesn't exist. Jesus fucking Christ, man. Yo, Kim, thank you for the $50 super chat over on YouTube saying, "Keep it up, kid. I'll give you more money once my divorce is." Kim! Kim! Shout out Kim! Kim! Kim in the chat for the $50 super chat over on YouTube. As well as a message. You know what? Let me tell you. Divorce is actually very fucking expensive. Divorce is so expensive, dude. Oh my god. Yeah, I saw that. I've seen that firsthand, how expensive divorce can be. Hey, man, enjoy your freedom. Have a great life, Kim. Have a great life. Christina, thank you for the $10 over on YouTube Super Chat. That is incredibly kind. Okay. All right. Oh, then also Adam, thank you so much for the $50 over on PayPal. Thank you so much for the love, Adam. Adam says, man, the guests today have been full moon type crazy. Yeah, they've been a little insane today, not going to lie, Adam. I'm kind of worn out at this point. But thank you so much for the love, Adam. Everybody, please show some love to Adam down below in that chat. Let's get 500 Adam W's. As well as, check disc. Okay. All right. Moving on to the next guest. I'm going to go get Andre up in the live. Hello, Andrea.
Hi, Dean. How are you?
You know what? I'm doing fine. Do you support Trump?
I don't, but the reason I requested to come up is I own two small trucking companies, and actually worked with the Department of Transportation on the entry-level driver training requirements, which is the newest iteration to truck driver training. I sat on multiple panels at the Great American Trucking Show, And I actually was one of the three people that wrote a petition to get trucking hours of service changed. So the reason I wanted to come up, I'm also a retired federal employee, started working for the government when I was 18. At 38, I was able to retire. So
what's your take?
Well, the reason I wanted to come up and say something is the reason why the last guest likely is saying what they're saying is a couple things. One, misinformed, and two, you'll notice in the trucking industry that most drivers, I shouldn't say most, that's a generalization, but you do see a lot of conservative, uneducated, I like Trump because he's Trump type of approaches, which is really rooted in racism. So you are correct that there is not data out there that supports that non-English speaking drivers are causing more accidents. And something that I did hear the guest say was that non-English speaking or refugee drivers are coming in and taking jobs. Well, according to the American Trucking Association, they put out a study every single year, anywhere between 50 to 80,000 drivers we are short every single year. So if a driver is having problems with wages, meaning they are getting lower wages, it is because of one of two things. One, they're working for a company that offers low wages and they accepted that position. If they're an independent driver, meaning own their own truck or own their truck and lease a trailer, but they're responsible for the freight, then they're accepting low rates. So every load comes with a negotiation. So like a load sheet that says, hey, here are the specs. This is what you're hauling. This is where it goes. And this is the rate per mile, or this is the flat rate that you will get for hauling this. Do you accept or do you not? And if you accept it and it's low, that's on you. If you want the rates to go up, if truck drivers want the rates to go up, I want to make it very clear. I am a wholehearted supporter of the trucking industry. And I think truckers hold a huge amount of influence. They just can't get themselves organized enough to exercise said influence. So at the end of the day, they are the ones that are responsible for either accepting the job that pays the rate that is there, or as an independent trucker, they're accepting the rate from either the broker or the shipper. And they're the ones clicking yes on the box or checking yes on the box or whatever. There is no evidence to support that non-English speaking drivers are taking driver jobs. We are literally upwards of 80,000 truck drivers short every single year in the trucking industry. And as it relates to the training regulations, they were most recently updated in 2022. And there are three components to trucking regulations. One is classroom training, which then results in you having to take a test. It is mandated that the test has to be administered in English and no interpreters are allowed. The second step of entry-level driver training regulations is a closed course proficiency test, which is there's a checklist of about 40 different proficiencies that the driver has to be able to perform. That testing must be performed by a qualified trainer and only be conducted in English. The third step of entry-level driver training is open road training, which again, there's about 45 different proficiencies that the driver has to prove that they are proficient in, no matter how long it takes them to do it. All of which has to be conducted by a qualified trainer and only in English. But these are not new regulations. The regulation for the English speaking requirement has been on the books literally since the 80s. It just has not been enforced. The fact that the Trump administration has put into effect this or has signed into executive order that English speaking proficiency testing is done at roadside. And I want everyone listening, and Dean, even you, to understand what I'm saying here. This is a money grab. This is a racist money grab. Because at the end of the day, even when we go take our driver training tests, the road signs, for example, are pictures. The psychology behind road signs is that they can be understood anywhere. You drive in foreign countries and don't get pulled over for not being able to read or write or speak the native language. But the reason I'm bringing this up is the fact that we are not proactively ensuring before we award a commercial driver's license that someone proficiently can read, write, and speak English is no one's fault but our own. The fact that we are doing it retroactively after the fact at roadside, meaning officers are conducting these proficiency tests, only results in that driver being put out of service for a minimum of 10 hours. There are states out there that are get legal states, meaning that you have to get legal with whatever your out of service requirement was. How is someone supposed to learn English in 10 hours? All it does is hit their CSA score, which is like their grade point average for being a truck driver. If you're an independent driver with one truck and you get one out of service, that is detrimental to your CSA score. Detrimental. If you work for a large company, not such a big deal, but still, all it does is generate a ticket, which is generating revenue. This is about racist revenue generating. This is not about ensuring safety. If we were wanting to ensure safety, we would ensure English reading, writing, and speaking proficiency before we ever issued the commercial driver's license. This drives me fucking crazy. This whole thing, racist truck drivers. I'm married to one. My dad is one. My brother is one. And I'm not calling them racist. I'm calling them truck drivers. But this is truck drivers using anecdotal data to try to drive people out of the industry that they don't think should be there. And from a federal perspective, this is a racist money grab. If you ever need anyone to talk about trucking, the trucking industry, hours of service, truck driver training, hit me up. This is absolutely ridiculous.
You should run for Congress. I'd vote for you.
Well, I don't know. But
have you ever considered it?
I have not. I have not. I actually retired at the end of the end of the first Trump administration when I was 38 years old after 20 years. And during that time was when I lobbied so very hard the Department of Transportation to get hours of service changed. So, truck drivers are only allowed to work so many hours a day. Of those hours, they're only allowed to drive so many hours a day. And the regulations had got out of control over the years. And I single-handedly wrote a petition that got said regulations changed. So for everyone listening, for the 4.5 thousand people listening, just know you have the power to evoke change. I was one person. I was one single person with a MacBook and an idea. And you can do it. And I wish the trucking industry would coalesce in a way that they could really impart change both economically and for their own industry. If they could come together and do that, they're one of the most powerful industries in the world. But at the end of the day, they're buying into racist rhetoric that is a money grab. Fining people, giving them tickets does nothing to solve the problem. We need to be proactive about it, not reactive.
Andrea, thank you so much for coming up on the stream. Not only did you educate me and likely a lot of people listening, but you're also incredibly engaging. I dropped you a follow. You should consider a career in politics. Not even joking. I'm being so very serious.
Coming from you, that is very flattering. I feel like I'm old enough to be your mom. I literally watch you every single day. You have taught me a lot. And like I said, if you ever, I have heard multiple truck drivers come up and say things on your streams that are just so emphatically incorrect.
And hey, if you ever watching,
I fight that.
Yeah, if you ever watching when you see a truck driver coming up here making false claims, feel free to request. Obviously
Absolutely.
my knowledge on given topics can only extend so far, especially when it's I have to have a bank of knowledge on everything.
I understand.
I may say. So then it's more niche topics that I've never had personal involvement in. throughout my
Sure.
life, like trucking. You know, it's like I maybe know the surface level shit. But
Yeah.
Andrea, yeah, I really appreciate you for coming up. I dropped you a follow, and I hope
Yes.
that you have a good rest of your day.
Absolutely. You too. If you ever have any questions, just let me know.
Yeah, awesome. I will. I will. Dude, W Andrea. Wow. Wow. Dude, W fucking Andrea. W Andrea. Wow, that's great, dude. It's like she wasn't just like educating us all, but she did it in like a very like very engaging way. Very, very, very very good speaker. Very good speaker, Andrea is. Adam. Welcome into the live, man.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can. So, for everyone watching, this is Adam. Now, a lot of you guys may know Adam. You know, Adam's been a huge part of the community for a very long time now. And most notably, a while ago, me, Parker, Matt, and all of you guys, a huge portion of the community, helped fundraise for Mr. Witch King's GoFundMe, related to the expenses of covering all of the expenses with your treatment for cancer, and kind of related to the hardships of, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, your insurance company, basically saying that they're not going to cover it anymore and not covering the treatment that you need. And I saw your DM on Discord that you wanted to pop up, give us an update, have a conversation. I'd love to hear from you, and honestly, I bet a lot of the people watching would love to hear from you as well. So, Adam, take it away, man.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Actually, I'm really nervous because it's actually my first time coming up on a live at all on TikTok. So,
I get it. I get it. I remember when I first started to go live, and more specifically when I first started to join Parker's live, because when I started to join Parker's live, I was small time. He was big time, and I'd feel really nervous, you know, like in front of a super large crowd. So I really get it, Adam. No worries at all, man. I understand.
it was funny. I remember, what was it? About 2 years ago, I was popping through my For You page, and this guy comes up on there. And I'm like, there's this guy that pops up, and he's blonde haired guy. He's got a white tank top on. He's got a little tiny rainbow heart in the background that says, why is B and J why wrong? And I was like, I wonder what this guy's talking about. So I popped in, and I was hooked because it was the sassiness and this, like, the transition from being sassy to being like gentle, and then the whole OG little graph that she had about the infertility, the handwritten, it's like can't have kids here, can't have kids there.
The graph.
And I'm just, yes, that OG graph, man, that was. And then I watched you for, I think it was a week or two, and then you did a Parker raid, and I was like, well, I'll give it a try. So I went over and saw Parker, and then it's kind of history, kind of history after that. So
yeah, man, dude, that's crazy. You've been watching for a long time. You know, I remember I used to wear the tank top every stream. I've upgraded from the white tank top to the white crew neck. So, we're changing things around. But that's crazy, man. Thank you so much for sharing that with me. A lot of nostalgia packed in there, even for myself. But tell us about what's going on with you, and we love an update, dude. I mean, I know that I think about you often. I'm worried and concerned, as I bet I am a lot of the people, watching that, saw that original live for the GoFundMe.
Excuse me. Well, it's it's kind of a toss up. It's good and bad. Good news is I'm still here, so
yeah,
that's a good thing. So not long after we did the fundraiser, the I had been the social worker at the facility that I'm staying at had been trying to get me an appointment with legal aid to help me with my insurance and stuff like that. So we ended up they ended up talking to my insurance, and then we had it was I think me, one of my oncologists, one of the medical directors here, uh, my case manager with my insurance, and their manager. We had like a 4 hour long call, like a conference call, and it, it sounds kind of weird to put it like this, but it was kind of like a compromise or a negotiation. I had been doing 3 days a week before they kind of cut me off. I'd been doing 3 days a week of chemo. And so they said that they would cover one day. And I had been taking this, a medication, which ridiculously is like $600 a pill. And they said, okay, so I was on the max dosage. And I was like, we won't cover the max dosage. What we'll do is we'll meet you in the middle. We're going to cover like a lower dosage, but you have to go on another medication that's a whole lot cheaper. So I was like, okay. So, excuse me, we did that and got approved to stay where I am a little bit longer. So I was doing that, so back to once a week, doing that, seeing therapists here, trying to deal with also the mental aspect of it, and taking medicines, to help with pain and all that other stuff. So, and then it was kind of about 2 weeks ago. I was actually in the hospital for about 2 weeks, and I felt really bad because I missed a couple of your lives, and I felt I felt terrible. The first time because they took me by ambulance, which literally it's a waste of time because you can literally step outside of the facility that I'm in, and if you can throw a baseball hard enough, it'll land in the emergency room parking lot right across the street. So it took me over there, but we forgot my phone, and I'm like, crap. So I was there for a couple of days. I just had I was having chest pains, trouble breathing, stuff like that. Turned out it was just really bad palpitations, low blood sugar, low oxygen stats from imbalanced electrolytes. Because I don't like to eat a lot. So they gave me a whole bunch of like nutritional bags and a whole bunch of fluids and stuff like that. And I was there, came back, and then I had to go back because I had a small upper respiratory bleed and I was coughing up blood. So they sent me back there, and while I was there, I had a allergic reaction to one of the medications that they gave me there. So I had to stay a little longer. That time I did remember to take the phone. So I'm like, I'm not missing these lives. Which is crazy because like I can't even deal with that. But yeah, they did that.
I gotta tell you, you're talking about going to the emergency room for really bad palpitations. That is the scariest shit ever.
Mm-hmm.
That something similar happened to me a little bit ago. I had that episode of terrible palpitations, and I'm sure that yours were like exacerbated and even worse because of like low blood sugar and other things related to the treatment. That must have just been like terrible because it feels like you're having like a heart attack. Like super bad palpitations. It feels like you're having a heart attack and you're gonna die, man. So from that perspective, man, I feel terrible for you. Because I personally have experienced something on a significantly lower level, and I can't imagine how hard that must have been for you, man, on top of everything else. And don't feel bad for missing alive, Mr.
I
Adam.
do though. It's like I
I think about it this way, man. I am so blessed to have you in the stream when you are. If anything, I'm the one that should be feeling sad if you don't make it for a day, not you. Okay, because your presence blesses us here, man, and I mean that seriously. And I really hope that you're able to continue to work with the insurance and get them to fund what you need. And I hate that it was like you were negotiating for your life with them, and that's just appalling to me, man.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. When I was this coming up week, I pretty much I go every week, once a week. I think this coming up week I'm gonna have to do 2 visits. I was telling well, I'm on the live now, and so it doesn't really matter. But um, when I was in the hospital, they do scans of me because with my condition, I have these little tiny micro like blood clots that like clog up like the tiniest little vessels in my body. So it doesn't cause like it's not enough for like a heart attack or anything, and they're not big enough to move, but they're like microscopic. They were doing that, and they found and I don't know why doctors always describe stuff in the form of fruits, but I had a grape sized growth on my pancreas. So they ended up sticking a needle in me, which I'm like, because they're like, well, we can either stick a needle in you or we can kind of go in there. And I'm like, well, if I don't have any blood, clotting factors, so I don't want to bleed out. So they stuck a little needle in there and took some samples. I had to do it twice. I found out, and then I didn't go to the cancer center. The medical director here came in Friday, right after this past Friday, right after your live started, and which I looked again. I was like, I felt bad. I was like, oh man, and apparently it showed cancerous cells. So we're gonna have to do some more work and find out exactly to what extent that's going to affect me, because I've lost. I didn't know them because they were on my mom's side of the family, which I didn't really know. But we have had 2 people who have passed away from pancreatic cancer, younger. So I'm kind of worried about that. But I mean, other than that, I'm trying really hard to, try to be brave. There's a lot of, and I will have to say there's a lot of really good people. I don't know, I've been watching you for 2 years. You're the best. Parker is the best. Matt has been there every step of the way. I don't know if I should. I don't want to use. I don't know if they want me to call them out. Their names, but there's someone. One of your other mods. Several other mods have been there for me. They're all our own little chat, but one in particular has been there for me ever since I started watching you, and I talked to her constantly.
Does her name
Yeah.
start with an E and end with Y?
Yeah, yeah. She's always there for me. She's always trying to cheer me up and always making me feel good. I think she's just so nice, and I really appreciate the support. I'm not really used to it. My family, I moved away from my home state because my family's not really. I have a lot of strikes against me with my family, so I came where I am now, and
Hey,
so I'm about 700 miles away.
Adam, man, just know that I think that you are, right now the strongest of any of us, and that that deserves to go noticed. And you deserve to be able to tell your story. And I'm so happy, that I have a platform with a couple thousand people tuning in right now to listen to it, man. We're all on your side, and if there's any way that I could help, anything that I can do, and likely anything that we could do, I bet a lot of people in the chat agree here. That we will, and stay in contact, man. I I really appreciate you for coming up and sharing some of your story, and keep us posted. Keep us posted with how things are doing. You got me on Discord. I saw that you texted me your number. I'm gonna add that to my contacts. I'm gonna shoot you a text back. Keep me updated, man. I'd love to be in the know about how you're doing.
Well, thank you. I just wanted to say there's one thing I wanted to focus on, but I didn't really get to say a whole lot about it, and I won't keep you too much longer, like too long, because I know you want to
take your time.
get off. You get off, but the people, all of the people that helped with the GoFundMe, I couldn't. Wasn't even possible to say thank you because there was like thousands of people, and there was no way for me to individually thank everybody, which I think it's absolutely crazy that like no, I'm not grifting here, but I'm just saying I think it's absolutely crazy that you guys still have it in your link trees. I'm like, what in the world? Because there is no. Stuff's expensive. I mean, medicine, the chemo, hospital stays, the copays for doctor visits. Just my stay here. Everything's it's really expensive. But I really wanted to say thank you to a kind of a cumulative thank you to everybody that helped. And there was some really nice comments that were left. There were I got some really nice message requests and follows that day. Of course, there were some, few nasty people, but that's going to happen no matter what. But I had to say thank you to you, to Parker, to Matt, and to everyone else who, was a part of that and got that set up. I'm not used to having that kind of support in my life, and I know that even though you're in Colorado and I'm in a red state, unfortunately, uh, I really appreciate what you guys do, and
Adam,
that's kind of all I wanted to say.
I am happy to help, as well as I know with certainty that every other individual that donated and continues to donate to that GoFundMe is also very happy to help. Yeah, man. Thank you for coming up on the stream. I love you. Matt loves you. Parker loves you. We all love you. And seriously, let's keep in touch because I wanna keep in touch with you. That's important to me.
I appreciate it. I wanted to do. I felt really. I have really bad social anxiety, so I was terrified to say it, but I've learned from uh, last year. I lost 4 family members, and with my own condition, I you know you never know when your time's up. You never know when the last time that you'll be able to tell someone that you love them or that you care about them or what they meant to you. And that's something that I want to say to you because when um, you know what's it been a year? Yeah, I was diagnosed on Good Friday of last year, and I watched your TikTok videos. I watched your lives. I know when I was in pain, when I was sick, when I had my, not to be gross, but when I had a basin beside me to, washing your lives just in case they got sick. It was, it was really special. And it meant so much that it's something that I I can't even put into words what, what you guys have done, um, over the past, over the past year. And I can't believe that anyone would even care that much. I never thought I was worth it, or I deserved it. But you guys really made me feel like someone actually cared, and I really really appreciate that.
You make the painstaking hours talking to the worst faith, most annoying, absolutely insufferable Trump supporters worth it.
It's so funny because when we're watching, like when we're doing the chat, it's like I have half a brain, like I have two halves of my brain. Oh, sorry, I get a little emotional there. Half my brain is listening to what you're saying, what they're saying, and the other half of my brain is focused on the chat. Like my eyes do not leave the chat. It's just like you never, because we got thousands of people, you never know. And I
Oh,
gotta
that's
be like,
right. You're also in here modding, dude.
yeah.
Adam, you're just simply the greatest of all time, man. I'm really sorry to hear about your family. Just know that once again, it's really hard for me to even like vocalize and put into words how that makes me feel, because I feel like a lot of the events that you just described to us are some of the worst events that can happen to a human. And the fact that they've all gone in combination with one another at relatively the same time is just genuinely heartbreaking. And I don't know if I'd be able to be holding up as well as you are if I was going through the same things. Actually, I do know that I wouldn't be able to. And yeah, just know that we love you, and we'll keep in touch, man. And thank you so much for coming up on the stream today.
All right, well, yeah, and don't forget, I do. Said I was in here modding. I'm like, yeah, I, I come up and I'm modding here. I called myself what was it? A ping pong ball because I always ping pong back and forth on split screen between YouTube and TikTok. Like when you're on, because I have to go and check TikTok and I have to go and check YouTube, which I love YouTube because in TikTok it goes and it disappears. On YouTube, I can just go over there and wherever I was, I can just scroll down, and if there's anything that I missed, I can hit it. So I got you on TikTok and YouTube. I got Parker on TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch, and I got Matt on TikTok. So it's like, which it's I don't have a life. I mean, I'm in this. I call it a prison, but there's not really because I mean, no offense, but there's a lot of elderly people here, and not a lot of people my age. Because I'm contrary to popular belief, I'm not I'm not a boomer, or I'm not in my 50s or 60s. Not that old. So it's not a lot of people, you know. Everyone here pretty much spends their time playing bingo. So,
Well,
and
I might dishearten some other mods saying this, but you're the best of all of them. You're the best mod, Adam. you own that title as the very best mod.
you're gonna get me. You're gonna get me in trouble.
Oh no, I'll get myself in trouble. I'll get myself in trouble. But you are the best mod. And man, listen, I'm seriously grateful. I'm seriously grateful for you being a part of the community. I'm grateful for you being a mod, helping me out with the chats. I'm grateful for you as a person. I'm grateful for you being able and willing to come up here and give us all an update. And thank you so much for taking some time out of your day to come up here. I think at this point, I'm gonna go and end the stream for the night. Go make some dinner. And just know that I'm really happy that I could end the last 30 or so minutes of the stream talking to you, man. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thanks, and once again, thanks to everybody, and I guess I will see you hopefully tomorrow on your live.
I'll see you tomorrow, Adam. Have a good rest of your night, man.
You too. Bye.
Take care, Adam. Let's show some love to Adam in the chat real quick before we end. Let's show some love. Let's show some love to Adam. And then there's one particular donation that I wanted to read off here from Sarah. Thank you for the $20. Sarah says, fellow cancer survivor just donated to Adam. It's heartbreaking to see the healthcare system fail him, as it does so many living with chronic illness. As a healthcare professional, I'll keep advocating for change. Everybody deserves better. Thank you for leading. And I think that's really important for us to all be advocating for a change, for a better future. And you know, you're going to want to do that out of an interest of society as a whole and better treatment of people, but you know, also out of yourself. You know, system can fail you one day, and that's important to keep in mind. But I love y'all, both on TikTok and YouTube. I appreciate with you guys showing up and showing out to the stream. Adam, thank you for joining. And I will see you all tomorrow. Have a good rest of your evening. Bye. For everyone on YouTube, peace and love. Bye.